Lionel, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Tom?
Lionel.
Tom? Oh, look at that.
Lionel.
I got to turn my camera off. You're way more professional at this than I am.
Well, I'm just used to you telling me to turn the camera off. So
yeah. That's what I need. I need a director.
we need a showrunner.
Well, you know what? My niece is kind of a big shot director in Toronto with a nationwide newscast.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, she wanted to do it ever since she was 13, 14 years old. She wanted to be involved in show business, and then first thing she did when she was old enough, because they film a fair number of movies in Toronto, she got involved with being, just a runner and doing messenger and all that. Then she went to school for whatever it is you go to school for. Then she got a job with a local TV station, and then she worked her way up to now she's the director on a national newscast.
That's awesome.
I know. So, of course.
A lot of those type of things are, a lot of it comes from, you have to put your time in those early gigs, whether it's like, an unpaid internship or you're volunteering somewhere and you're there, you do the scut work and everything, but what you get out of it is the contacts that you make and the people that remember you down the road. And that's where opportunities arise from. And it's a friend of mine from work, her daughter, same thing, but she always wanted to be doing something in the sports industry. And she was, she would volunteer, and she had an internship at the Reading Phillies where we went to the baseball game at Comstock, and, somehow met the owner, and year over year, she just, leveraged that contact and that experience. And last I knew, she was the publicity manager for the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, or had some job in the front office at the Iron Pigs, which is the one level up from the Reading Phillies.
Yeah, I know. And what it is you also got to have what happens is if you get out there, you're a young person, you get involved, it helps to develop your personality, because at first you're afraid to talk to anybody probably. But as you go along, you start to develop a personality. And if you're going to be good at it, you're not shy, you speak up and you do a good job and yada, yada, yada. And before you know it, my other niece, she was she was the general manager of a big shot golf club. Actually, they held the Canadian Open there a couple of times. And my buddies, and I didn't even know. And then one day I said to my wife, I said, what's Lori do now? Well, she's the general manager now at Angus Glen. I'm like, really? She said, yeah. Next time I see her at Thanksgiving or Christmas, I'm like, are you the general manager now? She says, yeah. And so the following summer, I'm with my buddies and, my 8 golfing buddies. And they're like, man, it'd be cool to go down, play this course and that course. I said, well, hey, I'd like to play Angus Glen. Anybody want to play Angus Glen? Sure. I said, I know somebody. So, of course, I had it all set up that they got the red carpet treatment when they got there, not knowing that my niece was the general manager.
Right. You had an in. I
had the in.
Right.
The reason we're here for right this minute is because we're going to introduce the NERPM interviews part 1.
Okay.
Because we went to NERPM. You and I both went to NERPM.
We did. We had a great time.
The Northeast Railway Prototype Modelers.
Correct. Northeast or New England. Remember, yes. Dave said it's interchangeable.
Yeah. See if we did that with Railfan. I'm going to be talking. Did you know of, did you hear of something called Scranton Nights? I saw that our buddy Otto Vondrak, the editor of Railroad Model Craftsman, posted something about Scranton Nights, and it was something at Scranton. something at Scranton to do at nighttime so I'm going to interview him about that. Did you hear anything about that?
No.
Yeah, so it looks pretty cool. So we're going to work on that too. How did I get onto that subject?
Because of auto and railfan and railroad and railfan.
Yeah, just like New England or Northeast, the RPM meet.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tom, before we go any further, I want to make a confession.
Okay.
I went to your clinic, and I went to your clinic as kind of well, I'll go because I should go because it's Tom, and I'll go watch his clinic and blah blah blah. And it was like great.
Well, thanks. I thought you were going to say you fell asleep.
No, it was great. It was like I went as a courtesy. Because you helped me so much with the podcast, I thought I should go as a courtesy to see Tom's clinic. And I thought, okay, I'll sit in on this. And, if he's a low talker or whatever, I didn't really expect that. But I didn't know what to I didn't know what to expect. And it's like, it was like a great clinic.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I got a lot of, I had between comments on Facebook, and several people came up to me after the clinic and said that they enjoyed it and asked some questions and things. And I saw that a couple people joined the Facebook group over the weekend and over the past couple days. So it was it went well. And it was a full room. I mean, I was in the big room, and there were a lot of people there. Now, a fair number of people had seen my prior versions of the clinic, but it was about half new material, and it went well. I was very happy with how it turned out.
Here's what I liked. Here's my number one rule for doing a clinic. You spoke up.
Mm-hmm.
It was easy to hear. I could hear you. You spoke up. You weren't shy. Blah blah blah. That's number one. You got to be able to hear the person without straining, because it's like audio on a podcast. If the audio's not that great, it's hard to keep your interest.
Right.
So I mean, you spoke up, but then you had a great presentation to go with it, and lots of interest, and you had some input and questions, and it was a great clinic. It was like. It was easily a must-see clinic for anybody that ever goes to any convention or RPM meet where Tom Jacobs is there. Well, it was.
Well, thank you. No, I appreciate. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I mean, you got to see, the layout firsthand when you were here for Tom's Stock, but the clinic kind of gives a lot of the backstory and a lot of the thought process that went into it. That we've talked about some of it over the years, but it was it's a nice overview from the beginning, 11 years ago to where we are now. So one question I had, when you come in the main door and you're looking straight ahead, on your right on the lower level there's a staging yard there, right? On the right, on the lower level. Yeah, it wraps around that center aisle.
Okay. But when you come straight in the door and you're looking down that long, I don't know whatever you'd call it, aisleway.
If you come in and you're in the long center aisle, there's a staging yard. It starts on the left and bends around the end of the aisle, and it finishes on the right side.
Okay. So above, like in that particular shot, like there's bench work and walls and backdrops and everything that go all the way to the ceiling of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And which is on your left. I guess some of it's on your right too, but I noticed it on your left. I remember noticing it when I was there too. Like, are you going to finish that with wallboard? And that looks like a spot where you could really...
Yeah. Once everything else is built, what I'd like to do is cover up the bench work with masonite and paint it, make it look presentable, and then I can use that as a space to hang. I have some of my railroad oil paintings hanging there now just to get them out of the way. But eventually I'd like to, kind of have that be, like a little bit of a display area or something, for those paintings and some of the other stuff that I have in frames and things like that.
Anyway, yeah, I think that would look really, really cool, because it's kind of a dramatic spot, because It's so high on the left-hand side there where it goes all the way to the ceiling. And you're way down in the pit, kind of. Would you call that the pit?
Yeah, I think we may have called it the pit once or twice.
Yeah. Because there's not really a lot that goes on there in that particular section of the layout, is there, other than the yard? The staging yard?
It's the staging yard, and then that first level when you come out of the yard before you go into the helix. So there's two towns there. There's Albertus and Mertztown, but that's all that's there. It's just that one scenic level, and then the rest of the layout, you have to go up to the raised floor and you access it. So I would say it's 1/4 of the action, so to speak, is down there on that bottom level, and the other 3/4 is up around the raised floor.
I know it's kind of dramatic the way. I mean, really, when you were showing that slide, and I was looking at it, I was thinking to myself, it's actually pretty dramatic because, like I say, that's kind of a pit with really high walls, but that's only one part of the layout, and then the rest of the layout is on the raised floor. It's kind of a cool, like once you get to understand the whole thing, it's a pretty cool design that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to.
It's dramatic. That's what
it is, but it's hard to capture it in a photograph. There's no place where you can stand in there and take a photograph and capture the whole thing, so you can see it. You can see the whole concept all together. You almost have to see it in person, or I have to put a bunch of different pictures together on a slide or something. It's just because of the way the backdrops go and everything. You can't appreciate it from one single photo.
That's right. Well, if anybody wants to see it, on August the 15th at 2:40 p.m. in the afternoon, Tom is having a wide open house.
Wait, when is that again? I better write that down. Yeah. August 15th?
Tuesday, August the 15th at 2:40 p.m. You'll be open for a half an hour. It's a limited window.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll mark my calendar.
Yeah. All right. So what did you like about the RPM?
Well, I thought this was probably one of the best meets I've been to. The model room was great. There were a lot of great models on display. The clinics were really good this year. I mean, clinics are always good, but there were some that were really, that were really enjoyable. There was one on 3D printing, a lot of tips and tricks around 3D printing, which was very useful info, very helpful info. Excuse me. Chris Adams' Valley Local Clinic is always good. Mike Rose's clinic is always good. Yeah, I always love to see what is going on with his Conrail Lehigh line.
I wanted to interview him, and I completely forgot.
He was only there for the first day.
Oh, okay.
He was only there for Friday. But yeah, he'd be a good one to talk to. He's got a very interesting approach to the modeling and design, and he's really a faithful prototype modeler. He really is a talented guy. Let's see who else. Ron Poitamani, he talked about how he bought a layout and moved it from where it was into his house. That was quite an adventure.
Yeah, I'm going to interview him and David Yale together, I think.
Oh, okay.
We had dinner with them on Saturday night or Friday night. We went to Longhorns, didn't we?
I think that was Friday night.
And I think I scared Ron at first. He was expecting... Go ahead.
Yeah, I think at the beginning he was a little intimidated, but I think by the main course he was... I think he was picking up what you were putting down by then.
Yeah, I think he was expecting podcast Lionel, and he got everyday Lionel.
Right.
I thought it was a particularly friendly crowd, too.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was, it seemed like you could move around the room and everybody was wanting to talk to everybody. It just seemed like a fun crowd. And and let's not forget, Bill Schneider was there from Rapido Trains.
He was. Oh, and His clinic was also fantastic on
Right.
his O&W.
That was Bill Schneider from Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
No, it was a great meet. I mean, the clinics were good. Like I said, there were a lot of really great models. The raffle was a lot of fun Friday night.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun because you cleaned up.
Yeah.
And they had a lot
not just me. The Stark brothers did okay.
Well, the Stark brothers always. The Stark brothers are the Stark brothers. You can't have a NERPM meet without the Stark brothers, I don't think.
Right.
And there was a lot of prizes, great raffle prizes, and some were even from Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's H-O, the fast track is Rapido.
And a guy from A&A Hobbies, I think he basically emptied out his store and put it on the raffle table.
Pretty much. He was a very generous contributor for sure.
Yeah. So anyways, we've killed 17 minutes for the intro for this particular thing, and we still got to do the show. So we're going to listen to David Yale first.
Okay.
And then we're going to listen to Jim Lincoln.
The model that I brought was on display right next to Jim Lincoln's stuff.
And how did that go? How did that go for you? Me and Dave Owens talked you into that. How'd that go?
You did. It went well. I got my 60-foot auto parts box car. I got it finished and painted and lettered and dull coated in time to take with me when I headed up to Springfield on Thursday, and I put it on display and got a lot of, maybe not a lot, but I got several nice compliments and people were looking at it. But yeah, I was in between Jim Lincoln with his Proto 48 stuff, and he was sitting there, weathering through most of the meet, weathering box cars and stuff. And then on the other side of me was Chris Fitness with a few of his things, and that Boston and Maine switcher that he's been working on for such a long time, complete with a little HO scale lantern that he painted, courtesy of Bernard at Mini Prints.
Bernard, miniprints.com. Bernard Helen, miniprints.com. Go to
does he have a jingle?
No, he hasn't a jingle because he's not a sponsor. He's a friend.
Okay.
The sponsor, the official sponsor of the AML network, of all things AML, there's only one sponsor, one official sponsor, and that's Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
I mentioned my buddy Bernard Helen because he's a friend, and miniprints.com is his business, and he's a very pleasant chap to deal with. So therefore, I just mention him whenever I get the chance. And then I always say, if you go to miniprints.com, tell him Lionel sent you and see if that helps. All right, we can't keep. Oh yeah, so we got David Yale, we got Jim the Hammer Lincoln, and then we finish up with John Frantz.
Okay.
It's three really good interviews. I cannot believe the quality of audio I get from that tiny little thing that I carry around.
It works really well.
It works incredibly well. Now, part of that is the microphones. The microphones are expensive microphones, but really all you're walking around with is two microphones and something the size of an old, one of those old brick cell phones, not even quite that big. It works really, really well. All right.
Well, and the real test, and then I'll shut up, but the real test of it, or the real proof of it, is the quality of the audio you get when we're using it at Springfield. Because if you think about it, the RPM meet, it's relatively quiet. Maybe there's 100 people in that big room tops at any one given moment. And, so it's quieter. You're not going to have as much background noise. But when you've got it at Springfield, where there's 1,000 people or more walking through the Better Living Center, and you're talking to someone and you can hear them as well as you do, that shows you that it really is a good little gadget.
Yeah, it is. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready. Subway chimes, go!
You got a Sharpie?
Got a Sharpie.
Second one.
Yeah. Put a mark on your face where the microphone's supposed to go. The key here is not to have the volume turned up too loud. You know what I've learned about audio recording is you can fix when it's too quiet.
Yeah.
You can't fix it if it's overmodulated.
Okay, that makes sense.
So if it's too quiet, easy fix.
Nice.
So I'm talking to David Yale
Hi.
from...
I have Dave's Model Railway Stuff. I'm also, I come from Connecticut, from Waterbury.
Where's Waterbury in relation to Springfield?
About an hour away.
Okay.
If you go down Route 84, you go through a city with a big cross on a hill.
Okay.
That's Waterbury.
That's pretty much any town in America, isn't it?
Not the size of Waterbury's cross, no. We're talking like 60 feet tall or 80 feet
Really?
tall. Yeah.
Okay. Who put that? Is that your house?
No.
Oh, it just happens to be there.
You know, there used to be a place called Holy Land, and it was like a miniature Jerusalem, Bethlehem kind of thing back in the 50s and 60s.
Exactly. So, yeah, there's one of those in Florida near Universal Studios, but it closed.
Yeah, this one did too.
Yeah. I guess there ain't that many people that are holy or want to pay to be holy. So what did you say, Dave's Model Railroad Stuff?
Yeah, I have a small company called Dave's Model Railway Stuff.
Okay.
I sell 3D prints on shapeways that I designed.
Oh, all right.
And I've been doing that for probably 10 years now, maybe.
Really?
8 years, 10 years.
Have you thought about getting your own machine?
I do have my own machine.
So why do you sell it on Shapeways if you have your own machine?
Because I have a regular job.
Where did I tell you to hold the microphone?
Sorry, the line slipped. Yeah, I have a job and I have a family and I have a house. I just don't have the time to run my own business. So
Right.
The way Shapeways does it, they do all the printing. They put it in a box. They collect the money and they send it to the people. And then I get my cut.
Do you get many customers that way?
I have had, since I started the business, I have gross sales of just over $100,000.
Really?
Yeah. Now, of course, that's not all in my pocket.
No.
Yeah.
Shapeways gets a cut.
And they take the majority of it.
Okay. But gross sales of over $100,000.
Yeah.
Selling stuff for the last 10 years.
Yeah, little detail parts like interiors for restaurants, machinery tools, heavy machinery tools like you might find in an engine house or a roundhouse.
Right.
Furniture that goes inside a house. I started because I was, like a lot of people, I did stuff when I was younger. I had a fine scale miniatures kit in my teens.
Right.
And then I got out of it for years. And I'm part of a modular club, HO Valley Track. And Valley HO Track. I don't even know the name.
What is it? Valley HO Track?
Valley HO Track.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, I got one of those stickers.
Yeah. And I was doing a building, just one of those DPM townhouse buildings that everybody's got.
Yeah.
And I wanted to put some interior in it and maybe put a light. And I started pricing out what everything cost. And back then, there were some beautiful metal castings. And I found out it was going to cost me like $80 to do a bathroom. And I'd heard about this 3D printing stuff, and I said, well, maybe there's something I can do with it.
Right.
And I designed bathroom furniture. That was my first design. And it was a lot more reasonable, and I could afford it. So that led one thing to another.
So do you have a website?
I do. DavesMRS.com.
DavesMRS.com.
Yep.
All right.
So it's like Dave's Misses when you look at it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Dave's Misses.
Yeah.
DavesMRS.com.
Yep.
Is it a well-maintained website?
All the sales goes through the Shapeway website, which they maintain their website very well.
Right.
So mine's just like a display, and then it has links.
Okay. So you go to the Shapeways, and then
Right.
that's where you pay, and blah, 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 blah.
Yep, you got it.
Okay. And what is your day job? I think I remember. You're a lawyer.
I am now an assistant attorney general with the state of Connecticut.
Wow.
Which is a fancy way of saying I'm a lawyer that represents the state.
Okay. When did you become an assistant attorney general?
Last October.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So at 62, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
You didn't use me as a reference, obviously.
Obviously.
So what does that entail? Is this like you put the bad guys away?
No, it's not criminal.
Is it like Law and Order?
No. Well, I was a policeman for 20 years, and that's nothing like Law and Order either.
Oh, okay.
But I became a lawyer back in the 90s. I retired from the PD in 05. I had done both for a while. And I recently made the change. I'm in the division called Public Safety, and we represent corrections officers and state police officers and some other parts of the state when they get sued. So we're basically defense attorneys on the civil side.
Oh, all right. Well, that must be pretty interesting work.
I enjoy it. It's a very good group of people. I got a great boss.
Okay.
And it's I look at it as my retirement job. I'll do this until I'm done working.
Okay. And it's something you can just probably keep doing until you're ready to stop.
Yeah. Well, I was in private practice. I was doing a lot of things I didn't like, but I was also representing police officers in towns that got sued. So it's very similar to some of the things I'd already been doing and the parts I like the best.
How often do police officers get sued?
All the time.
Really?
Yeah. When I was a police officer, I got sued.
Really?
Yep.
Mostly by nuts, I'm assuming.
For the most part. I mean,
that was probably rude of me to say, but it's probably the truth.
There are some legitimate lawsuits out there where mistakes are made, or, quite honestly, some people are put into police departments that probably shouldn't be there.
Right, yeah.
That's the minority of the cases.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, because there's bad apples in anything. There's bad apples in any walk of life.
Absolutely.
So what about model railroading then? You must know of other model railroaders in your line of work, do you?
Well, you got Chris Adams.
He's
right up he's in New London. We both work for the state.
That's true. You both work for the same state. But you don't interact at all.
No, he works with the legislature, and that's totally different. I could not do what he does.
Apparently he can't either, I've heard.
Yeah, well, they just got done with the legislative session, so I saw him today earlier, and he still looks a little frazzled.
That's just his look. He does that on purpose.
That could be.
So what about, do you have a layout?
I have a couple 4-foot modules.
Okay.
And we set up. As a matter of fact, I saw you at Springfield. You walked by and didn't even look at us.
Well, Springfield's kind of has become a weird thing for me because I don't really get a chance to see the show anymore.
Have you thought about wearing a disguise?
Yeah. I couldn't find one that's much uglier than this.
Get a better looking one, then nobody will even think it's you.
Somebody asked me once if I wore a hairpiece, and I said, if I had a hairpiece, would it look this bad?
Yeah, we set up at Springfield. We used to do about 12 shows a year.
Where in Springfield do you set up?
Right in Better Living.
Okay.
Right down about 100 feet from your booth.
Like towards the donut place?
Yeah, we're between you and the donut place.
All right. Okay. All right.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, one of our club members won Best Module and Show this year.
Really?
I sent you the picture.
You did?
Yep, Jeff Dean.
Okay.
Great modeler.
Yeah.
He's building a O-scale N2 2-foot narrow gauge, I think, from Maine. He's building that in his house, hand laying the track. Looks fantastic.
So how many members are in your club?
Nowadays, I think we're down to about 12, maybe 15. Our membership is down. Our membership's open if people are interested in this type of thing in the Connecticut area. We used to have a lot more, and we've had some people that have passed, unfortunately, and then a bunch of people that have retired and moved out of Connecticut, which is very common.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, people leave the state when they retire all the time.
Doesn't seem like that bad of a place.
At lower cost of living, they're looking for.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you find with the new world, because the hobby's not shrinking, but clubs are shrinking?
No, clubs are shrinking. And we're trying to market the fact that here you can do just 4 feet. It's not a lot.
Yeah.
But you can go out and people can see it, and you can show it to other people. It's not stuck in your house.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the projects I'm thinking of is doing 3 4-foot modules that constitute a little point-to-point switching layout.
Yeah.
But I can take them to shows, and I want to make them compatible with our club standards, but then with a little adapter, be able to hook them up to Fremo. So if I choose to go to a Fremo show, I can do that.
So your club standards are different than Fremo?
Yeah, they're based on the old NMRA module standards.
Okay, and how old is the club then?
1986, I believe it was.
Did Fremo exist back then?
No.
Okay. But it's not that hard to convert them?
No, well, we have 2 main lines with the same track centers.
Okay.
So their standard calls for the tracks, I believe, centered. In ours, they're on the front edge. So, and the electrical and the mechanical connections are different. But if I made like a 1-foot section that I could use as an adapter, I think I could make it work.
Okay. And how many? How active are these 15 members? Like when you set up at Springfield, how big is your layout?
Oh, it was probably like 20 by 34, maybe.
Okay.
It's good size.
Yeah.
And we do some other shows. There's just not as many shows as there was pre-COVID. A lot of them never came back.
Yeah, I know. That's too bad. Because shows are is still a popular way to go. I mean, this show is very popular.
Oh, yeah. This is a good show.
This is a great show. And it's a fun thing. It's just a fun gathering of people.
It is. It is. I saw several people that I know from Comstock.
Okay.
And other people that I've met over the years in the hobby. And it's always nice to sit down and say hi again and catch up a little.
Are you going to come to Comstock 24?
Oh, yes.
It's the Queso Cowboys birthday roundup.
Oh, I already told Tom I'd be there.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we're doing our own cooking this time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're not getting it catered. We're doing our own cooking, which doesn't mean I'm doing the cooking. It means that somebody else, like Hard Part or somebody else will do the cooking.
I've seen the pictures of Tom's cooking on Facebook.
Yeah.
So
I'm concerned. He's never heard me say this, but I'm concerned he might be a little slow. Not slow mentally, but slow. He strikes me as one of those guys like he can't flip the burger yet. It has to be just right. And it's like I was at a barbecue with my secretary at a barbecue once, and her neighbor, who insisted he was a barbecue connoisseur, well, he was going to do the cooking. And an hour later, I'm like, it's a sausage, and he had it on super low because that's the way you cook it, on super low. And I'm like, I'm dying here, buddy. Turn it up. So when he wasn't looking, I turned it up.
I can see that.
Yeah. So we met for the first time at Tom Stock.
Yes. After we left you at the hotel and all went to eat without you.
Yeah. Yeah, let's not go there.
And then you sat next to me, so that was nice because I got to meet you a bit.
Yeah, but I wasn't in a particularly good mood.
You did not appear to be. I think I heard your stomach grumbling when you got there.
I was a little miffed.
Well, I was riding with Scott Lister, and Scott's there. Oh my God!
I know. He's like, and it was like 5 minutes, and I'm sending messages. I'm like, here I come, and they'd left like 5 minutes, and I'm thinking,
everybody just assumed you were with somebody else.
Yeah. Very odd. So this year, we're publicly gonna say that the dinner is Wednesday at such and such a time, but in fact we'll have it on Tuesday or Thursday, and he'll just show up there by himself. We'll leave a clipboard on the table. He can. What else should I ask you about your? You don't have a home layout, but you have these modules,
right?
And how often? So do you guys ever set them up without a show?
We have not, but we've talked about it. Mainly for a space issue. We need a decent amount of space to set everything up.
Yeah.
But we're trying to transition, in my mind at least, I'm pushing for it, where we have more an operations bent, where we have modules that allow operations.
Okay.
And some members have done that. Other modules, for instance, my two modules I have presently are mainly scenic modules. The track runs through it. But even if we had some operation sections, we could have scenic sections between the operation sections to simulate running the train to the next town.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you this question about module groups. Like, do you have trouble coordinating and having the modules all look like one layout? Because you see some module groups where it's like, the guy has a tornado and the next guy has a freight station. And
we don't have any tornadoes, but there is no club standard for how they're scenic.
Okay.
It does change. We do have some built-up city layouts, and they're next to the farm. So, yeah, there is that.
Yeah.
But for us, that's the nature of the modular hobby. It's, and some
that's
people
part of it, yeah.
Some people would never join our club because of it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It's just many things in our hobby. Some people will only run super detailed locomotives. Other people run blue box.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of room in the hobby.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. There's a lot of room in the hobby. There's like tons of room in the hobby. I was going to ask you a really good question, too. I wonder what it was.
Weren't they all good?
When I'm on the road, it's more chit-chat. Some of the questions are good. It's when the person says to me, "Hey, that's a really good question," and I'm thinking, well, now see what they don't realize. I'm thinking, oh my God, my other questions weren't very good.
You spent all the time getting ready for it. I'm sure.
I know what it was. What's the model railroad scene like in Waterbury? Is that like southern Connecticut?
It's western Connecticut, about halfway between north and south.
Okay.
So it's midwestern Connecticut, if such a thing exists.
Yeah.
I don't know. Other than myself, I do not know. I'm trying to think. I don't think I know another Waterbury person who models, and I'm sure they are out there.
Yeah.
They need to come join my club.
Yeah, exactly. Do you operate on any layouts?
I have. I've just gotten into operations recently. I ran on our club president Ron's layout, which is a very interesting concept. He took a little section of the New Haven Railway called I'm going to get it wrong, the Merchant Line, and he recreated that little section. And he just did the clinic. He got the, what is it, Huntington and Waterbury, I think it was. It was Bob Collette's layout. Bob passed away.
Okay.
And he's incorporating that layout. He took down all the bench work and salvaged it as much as he could. The buildings and stuff have been sold. But he took that layout down and used most of it in an expansion of his layout that's going to be in Connecticut from Bridgeport to New Haven, I believe.
Wow, that'd be interesting. So, yeah, somebody said they went to that clinic, and it was how he'd taken all this, this layout out.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible.
And so is he the first layout you'd operated on?
Yes, actually. And, John Sacerdoti.
Oh, had you operated on his?
Yeah, we all went up there. He invited the club up before Springfield last year.
Okay.
We operated and we sat with John and talked and BS'd and we're down in his little club office, so to speak, that he's got there. And he told us how the club's all set up, or the show, how he sets up the show and everything.
Yeah.
It was fascinating.
So what do you think of operations now that you're started to be exposed to it?
I like it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've got an invitation to go to Chris Adams' layout.
There you go.
Now that the session's over, so I told him I'd like to take him up on that.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, and
I think he's having a little operating session tomorrow night. You want me to get you an invite?
No, because I don't know what I'm doing really. So I'll leave that for the experience.
You don't know what?
Stuff. Don't know what I'm doing really. So
neither do I. But you know what the beauty of Chris Adams is? He's timetable and train order operation.
Right.
And I hate timetable and train order operation with a passion.
Okay.
I don't like paperwork. If I wanted to do paperwork, I don't want a hobby where I got to do paperwork. I don't want to write nothing down. I just want to run trains.
Yeah.
But I can follow schedules. Like when you go over to Dave's, you got to follow the signals and lights. But there's no paper, nothing to write down. Uncle Dave Ableys I speak of.
Yeah.
But the beauty of Chris Adams is he's such a hospitable guy. He doesn't care if you don't know.
Yeah.
He wants you to he wants to figure out a way for you to have fun.
He is such a nice guy. Just talking with him the times that I've talked to him, he's just
he's a very personable, very hospitable guy. So I mean, don't hesitate to go there and jump in because he'll want you to come. He'll want to help you learn.
Right.
You can't go wrong going to Chris. Like I'm looking forward. He's never run a train for me. He's never actually. Whenever I've been in his home, he refuses to run trains for me. I don't know what it is.
I don't know either. I can't figure it out.
He just won't run a train for me when I'm there. But if you do want to go visit, I arranged on a prior podcast. I guess the one that was last week from prior to this RPM. I told everybody to be there at 1:35. And there'll be parking available on people's lawns and stuff like that.
I got all-wheel drive. I can park, park in the mud or whatever.
Just park on his lawn. Just tell him Lionel sent you.
Yeah, I can. That'll work.
Did you bring anything to display?
I did not.
Why not?
Oh, because I was...
Don't tell me that you didn't think your modeling was good enough.
Well, we won't even... It's not. I'm a much better 3D modeler than I am model railroader. But,
but
it was kind of a last-minute thing to come up here, and I came from work, and
okay.
And I wasn't going to come up, and then I was looking at the clinics and said, you know what, some of those look really interesting. So I just came.
Okay. And you're staying in the hotel, like
yes,
you're staying overnight.
I have a room here.
Okay. Did you buy raffle tickets?
I have bought more than one raffle ticket. I like raffles.
Yeah, I bought more than one, that's for sure. I'm going to have to borrow some money off you before we're done here.
Okay, that's fine. You're going to pay me back at Tomstock 2024?
Yeah, maybe. I might.
By then, I might forget by then, too.
Yeah.
If I forget, then...
Yeah, you might forget, and I might avoid you.
If you owe me money, I'm not avoiding you, though.
Yeah. All right. So what else? I guess that's it. Let's see how long we talk. I think we killed a bit of time here. 20 minutes.
Wow.
Time
you're just pleasant to talk to.
Yeah, aren't I, though? Somebody else is laughing.
I know, from across the room.
The whole room's laughing. Yeah, I'm just an awesome guy, aren't I?
Absolutely. That's why I listen to you all the time on the podcast. Commute back and forth to work, it works out pretty good. I can go from home to work, back home, and then back to work on one podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's a 35-minute drive each way.
All right, I'll have to make sure I keep that in mind then. It'll have to be 1 hour and 45 minutes long for you to get back and forth.
There you go.
So it's like 3 days worth. So are you right up to date?
No, I'm a little behind right now.
Okay.
I've been listening to some World War II history books.
Okay.
And so I switch it around on my drive.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, I find the most annoying thing about listening to the podcast is me.
We all know that.
Well, it's unsettling. You'll be listening to a podcast. I first discovered that on the way back from Chicago. It was from an RPM meeting. I'm listening to it. I'm thinking, man, this guy's... And then I realized it was me that was the annoying part.
I was on a podcast as an attorney talking about police liability and some of these things out there and qualified immunity. And I got the same impression. I listened to it and said, everything I'm saying is good, but my God, I don't like listening to that. Is that what I sound like?
Yeah. All right, that's it. What should we? Anything else, or are we done? Well, you should have brought some models. That's what we were going to talk about. The one great thing I had when I had the discussion with Dave Owens, who does a great job running this with his crew.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think eventually, when John Sacerdoti stops running Springfield, which we really shouldn't let him do.
No, never.
But I think Dave Owens is taking over.
Okay.
Dave would be great.
All right. Hey, I got a question. You talked about T-Track for Comstock 2024.
Yeah.
Are attendees going to be bringing T-Track modules? Because I will make one if attendees can bring them. If we're gonna
Brad
do that.
Williamson and his whole gang, they're bringing their layout.
I'm gonna make either a 2 or 4 foot section of T-Track.
I don't understand T-Track at all. I just had a long interview with Andy Zimmerman, which is coming up in a few weeks, and he tried to explain. He's the standards and conformance guy for the NMRA.
Yeah.
And he's into T-Track. And Brad Williamson was trying to explain it to me, and I do not get it at all. I don't understand it.
I think I get it, and it is a low investment way to get into a situation where you can interact with other modelers and talk. And it is N scale, and we know that it's dead. But other than that, it sounds pretty cool.
They say that there are starting to be HO scale T-Track.
I've heard that. I haven't seen those.
No.
Yeah, but I have a whole box of N-scale stuff from the 80s, but there's building kits and things in there. When I was in college,
units that go 100 miles an hour backwards.
When I was in my dorm, I had a 2-foot by 3-foot N-scale little layout that I made. It was mainly it wasn't really scenic or anything, but I had it in my dorm.
What is it about model railroading that gets into people's blood?
I don't know. Even when I was out of the hobby, I was still
in the hobby.
I was in the hobby, but I wasn't a practicing member of the hobby for a period of time.
It never leaves you.
I was still buying magazines.
I'm beginning to think that when you're born, there's a model railroad ferry that goes around from hospital to hospital, picking out individuals, and they sprinkle pixie dust on them, because it's like when it's in your soul, you can't get it out.
Yeah. I have to blame my mother.
Okay.
Because when I was like 8. I didn't get a Lionel set. I got the Marx Work Train set, which was similar.
Yeah.
It had like a 242 steam engine that looked like nothing real ever. But what she did for the next couple of years is she bought me track. And I had track that would go, there was like a loop that could go through the house and then with a spur line down the hallway. And she would let me leave it up for a couple days, and everybody'd have to be stepping over it. And I would be on the floor. I'd be playing with this train and soldiers and everything to go with it. And and then I went to HO afterwards. And
what's your mother's first name?
She was Beverly.
I'm wondering, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Your mother is the model railroad ferry?
Oh, well, she is now. She's looking down and looking at my modeling and saying,
yeah, there you go. But I'm convinced it's something like that. Because once it's in you, you cannot get it out.
Yep. And even today, it's beyond that. We went to Subway up at Union Station, like a block and a half away.
Right.
Then we go upstairs, and there's a Central Connecticut, so I forgot which railroad it is, but there's a freight train up there.
Oh,
And so we did some rail fanning on our lunch break.
Nice. We went to a hot dog place. Me and the Start Boys. We're thinking that's going to be a new Kelly question. How about this as a test Kelly question for you? Which of the Start brothers is your favorite?
Oh, my goodness. Is there a third?
No.
Oh, that narrow. Oh.
It's either Bill or David.
I got to go with Dave just for the name.
Okay.
Because I'm a Dave. So Dave and Dave, we got to stick together.
Good answer. All right, say goodbye, David.
Goodbye, David.
Okay. It's NERPM.
It's NERPM.
2023.
That is correct.
And I'm here with Jim Lincoln of Jim Lincoln Chevroles.
So I'm told.
You can talk a little louder.
I can talk a little louder? Okay.
Yeah, don't be shy. This is the opening act for NERPM. You are opening the NERPM show.
Yes, so I'm told, yes.
Yeah. So we are testing the equipment and talking to you at the same time.
We are testing the equipment, yes.
And talking, see the bars are moving and everything. So it's looking...
Awesomeness.
It's looking okay.
Yes,
so
it looks very official.
You come to NERPM like every year, don't you?
Yes.
And how come? What's so great about NERPM?
The atmosphere is great. I find that with my line of work, sometimes the modeling, I don't know what the word is, but the fire gets relit. All the people are great. I like talking to the people. I normally will bring models,
right?
And I sit and I weather them, or I'll work on something and let people come to me.
Right.
As somebody else just said, it says, this is kind of overwhelming. Yeah, that's why I just sit here, work on models, get the modeling juices fired
Right.
back up, and I let people come talk to me and
Yeah.
see what I'm doing.
And what's your day job?
I work for Boston Commuter Rail.
Yeah, and you're a
Conductor.
conductor now.
Yes.
And how's that? How long you been doing been a conductor there? Because at first
12
you started
years.
as a brakeman.
Well, I was an assistant conductor at Keolis. I started as a conductor at CSX. Then I moved over to Keolis in 2011. So I've been since 2011.
There's a lot of full-time railroaders that are model railroaders.
Yes. They don't normally make it public, but yes.
Well, and they seem to be making it more public.
Yeah, because now with, there's less of a stigma attached to it.
Yeah.
And generally speaking on the railroad, for good reason, railroaders don't trust rail fans and model railroaders.
Right.
Model railroaders maybe more so, but rail fans, they don't trust them until they know that you're going to do your job first.
Yeah.
And rail fans second.
Yeah.
And once they know you do your job and then your hobby, they don't care.
Right.
Railroaders don't care as
Right.
long as you don't get them killed.
Right, yeah. Because,
Little things.
Because it's as I've mentioned many times, I mean, full-size trains are flat-out dangerous.
Yes.
There's no two ways about it. They're not kind of dangerous or sort of dangerous. They're dangerous.
It's one of these things that the best quote that I heard about railroading was when I was getting trained at CSX. They said, working for the railroad can be a very safe place to work. It is, however, very unforgiving.
Yes.
That's the best word. It's not that it's dangerous person. If you give it the respect that it demands,
Right, yeah.
it's very safe. The problem is when you get complacent, it will just kill you.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't kill you, you wish it had.
Yeah, exactly.
It just doesn't care.
Yeah.
And the trouble with working with passengers is they think it's safe. And when you're trying to tell them that what they're doing, while they may have been able to do it for the last 20 years, it actually isn't safe. And why don't you just stand there, don't come out to where I'm at, I'm in the dangerous spot, you stay there, wait till we stop, and then it's safe.
Okay.
Once it stops, it's safe.
Yeah.
But when a train is moving, it's not really safe.
Yeah, okay. So you'll have passengers that want to get up, and as the station comes near, they'll want to get up and get ready.
That's okay. Walking around inside the coach, that's where the safe bit is.
Okay.
Inside the coach is safe. That's not a problem.
All right.
It's when you get to the ends where the couplers and everything are.
Yeah.
That's the unsafe bits. And, doors open, things like that. So on some of the flat coaches with manual doors, if it doesn't latch quite right, when an Acela or something goes past us on the Northeast Corridor, sometimes the pressure will pop the door open.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, and you're going 80.
Yeah.
And people are looking at their phone and they think, oh, the door's open, I can get off.
Right.
And yes, passengers will do that. Because they're looking at their phone, they think they're coming to a stop. They don't really, they will step off. I mean, it's like, so you're trying to just wait. I will open the door. I will take care of you. It's not a problem. It's like, really, let me do my job. Things like that.
So let me ask you, after 12 years of being a conductor, do you feel like you still enjoy it? Because it seems like a common trend with full-time railroaders is they like the job when they get it. They don't hate the job as it goes along, but they get tired of it, maybe? Is that a word? Is it a grind? Is it?
It is a grind. It's it just working with passengers is tough. Because you have the whole, and I know you're talking about both freight railroad. It's everything's governed by very large corporations now, and so corporations are trying to cover themselves.
Right.
And so even though they'll put in a lot of rules which make things more difficult, it's safer. It is not safe. I mean, it's absolutely safer. But then when things take a long time because you're following the rules, you're at fault because you're delaying things.
Right.
And then when they come out and watch you do it, they realize that you're just following the rule. It gets tiresome. That's it's the work. I enjoyed being a freight conductor.
Right.
I enjoyed the work. I did not enjoy working for CSX, and it's even worse now. Just the way they have the whole
Because of the corporate pinheads.
Because yeah, it's like they're self-insured, which means basically everything is the crew's fault.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter that they didn't fix it. And the reason that the handle fell off was because nobody checked. The carman didn't check it, and it fell off. And now it's your fault because you didn't. Yeah. Anyway.
I'm guessing a lot of upper management have never been full-time railroaders. I mean, I know
many of them have not.
Yeah, many of them.
Yeah.
Which clouds the issue because you're trying to describe it to people that don't understand what's happening.
Yeah. And recently. Let's see, April 10th. It was April 10th I was assaulted by a passenger. So
were you really?
Yes, I was, yeah. So I was
punched. That's become a real problem, hasn't it?
Yeah, I was punched in the head. So needless to say, my view on my job is somewhat soured in the past 2 months. So you asking me this now, that's why I was kind of hesitant about answering.
Yeah.
It's like, do you love your job? No.
Well, that's that's becoming a problem, is the abuse of people that work on not just railroad, but abuse of people in general.
Yeah, and this was over $2.40.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm one of the few people that actually try to collect fares.
Collect the money,
and I understand why many of my coworkers don't, is because they just don't want to be bothered over $2.40. It's not worth it.
Punched in the head for
$2. Not really. And it was like literally, if the guy had spoken to me, it could have been $1. I mean, it's like
yeah. And so police were involved, or like
they eventually were involved. The guy got away. He hasn't been arrested. There's an APB out on him, but the problem was the engineer could have gotten him, but by rule at the station we were at, he had to pull his door off the platform, so he couldn't get onto the platform to get the guy.
Oh.
But the moment he heard us call the police, he ran away. So, I mean, and relatively speaking, I mean, I've heard of people getting beat worse.
Yeah.
So he just hit me once and ran away. But
still,
I'm very
you don't want to
fortunate.
be hit at all. It's an invasion of your privacy.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, it's a very disturbing, an invasion of your privacy. Yeah. It's an unpleasant experience. End of period. End of sentence.
And it makes going to work slightly. Even though I've changed jobs, so I don't work on that line anymore. But even then, there's a certain level of.
Well, sure.
I don't know if fear is the right word. Fear isn't the right word. Fear.
No. There's slight anxiety.
Anxiety. That's a good word. Yeah, anxiety dealing with people.
Yeah.
It's just but I'm still going to do my job.
Right. Yeah.
But
the problem is now every person you approach, while you're assuming that 99% of the people are good people, every person you approach, you're wondering if it's that one person.
And you don't know what has he broken up with his girlfriend? Is he not that he's a bad person? Is he having a bad day?
That's it.
Did you say it the wrong way?
Yeah.
And which just ticks him off.
Was he an N-scaler?
Right. Yes. And you're pulling the Proto 48 attitude, and it's like you're just one of those guys. It's like, how dare you talk about my scale? It's like, what? What are you talking about? I don't know. It's like, I couldn't even see your scale. Oh, sorry. Anyway.
No, that's good. That's good talk. And so tell us about what you're doing here, because you like to. I think it was before we turned the microphones on. You like to come here and sit and have the people approach you.
Yeah.
You use it as a kind of, like you said, to refresh.
Light the fire. Yeah. Because people come. Personally, I think I'm an okay modeler. And it's nice to have people come and say, "Wow, that's a great job." It's like we're all our own worst critic, so it's nice to have somebody else come and say, "Hey, that's awesome." So I use it, Yeah,
I've always thought of myself as at best an average modeler.
But, I mean, now you could, and if you come here, if you come to a railroad prototype meet, you will see a lot of absolutely awesome work.
Yeah.
And so you have the whole thing of being encouraged. No, encouraged isn't the right word. You probably know the word, but encouraged is good enough.
I only know 27 words.
Okay, that's fine. I know 29. So you get encouraged, like, oh, yeah, I could do that. Or you get ideas on how to do different things. And there's normally a clinic on how to do weathering. So even though I bring my stuff, you can have help and people. And, I work at home by myself.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have somebody else come and just talk to you while you're
just the
doing
interaction.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I do listen to podcasts while I model, but
sure. Any particular podcast?
No. Yeah, Modeler's Life. I think that's what it's called. Some just random, spin-off. No, that's not the spin. No, it's the real show.
It's the real show. The spin-off is Tom Barber.
Right? Yeah, Tom Barber's show. That's
Model Rail Radio. We always got to give a plug for Model Rail Radio.
Model Rail Radio. Yeah.
Where it all began, as far as I'm concerned. He's the godfather of Model Railroad podcasting.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Don't cross him.
No, absolutely not.
So I see the one box car there. You got graffiti on the side of it. Now, let's remind everybody that you work in O scale.
Proto 48. Yes.
And I was getting to that.
Okay.
And you're in O scale, but it's called Proto 48 because it's as exact as you can get.
Okay. There are some Proto 48 modelers that do that. Yes.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, I correct a issue with standard O scale. And I changed the wheel. As far as I'm concerned, wheels and track. I just changed the wheels and track. This is a standard Athearn model. This is a Lionel model that I'm just putting new wheels and just new wheels on. I'm literally not going to change anything to this other than put couplers and wheels.
The trucks?
Well, the trucks, obviously.
Well, okay. Well, no, it's wheels and wheels are separate from trucks.
Yeah. Yes. So I have to change the trucks mainly because
Lionel,
it's easier that way.
Yeah.
Lionel, believe it or not, Atlas O trucks, because of the way they make them, they're very, very wide. And when I say that, they're like overly. If you scale them out, they're like 6 inches too wide.
Okay.
I don't know how Lionel does it, but they scale out perfectly. So the width of the truck is actually scale correct.
Oh.
So if you put in new wheels, if you can figure out how to do it, if you can put in new wheel sets into a Lionel truck, it's actually scaled.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that until I did it. Looked at it one time. Like, I had spent years. I had spent 2 or 3 years trying to figure out how to do something. And there's an Atlas ACF car, the ones that are made out of aluminum. Gorgeous cars. I mean, it's just absolutely to scale perfect.
Really?
And I had angsted for I don't know how long. Just stupid. And I was like, let me just mount these modified Atlas trucks on it. And it was put it on the track, absolutely perfect to scale, like the couplers at the right height. As I had spent years angsting over making the correct bolster, and I could have just put the trucks on it the whole time. That's not always the case, but
So what's your favorite manufacturer of O-scale equipment?
Probably this kit manufacturer, which doesn't make kits anymore. But beyond that, of Atlas, probably Atlas.
Atlas, yeah.
Atlas O, probably.
Do they have a fairly wide selection of stuff? Or is it like they make stuff and then it disappears and you got to go find it on eBay? And
Kinda. I mean, they do have a good selection of stuff, but they kind of keep rerunning things. They keep rerunning the same things.
Right, yeah.
I mean, O-scale's hard.
Yeah, it's a small part of the hobby.
Yeah. And it's fractured. Because you have 3-rail, you have 2-rail, and you have Proto 40. Proto 48's really small. But you have 3-rail and 2-rail.
Right.
And so who do you make it for?
There's and some 3-rail guys. I mean, there's one guy I want to interview. It's Norm's Trains on YouTube. I've seen it.
Yep.
Just a spectacular layout. And he does it in 3-rail.
Yeah.
And loves it. And with the weathering, the scenery, everything is beautiful.
See, which I can't quite get along. I can't get past the whole third rail thing. But they do a great job. Their take on it is, I want to do a big railroad, and there's a lot more selection and variety of stuff in 3-rail than there is in 2-rail. So I understand, if you want a big railroad and you want to do big operations and long trains, it's way easier to do in 3-rail than 2-rail or Proto 48. Now, I have seen 1 or 2 very large, gorgeous Proto 48 layouts, but it's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah? There are a couple, are there?
Guy down around Washington, D.C., somewhere, a beautiful Western Maryland Proto 48, and it's a very large layout.
Wow.
Yeah.
So where are you in layout status?
I have...
I know it's a slow process.
Mainly because that's why I come here. I come here, I get rejuvenated, and I go back. But I got about half of it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Half of it's there. I make my bench work out of gator board, which is expensive.
What is gator board exactly?
Gator board is kind of like it's gator foam. It's gator foam, so it's foam board, but it's got a very rigid. You can drill into it, drill and
Okay.
tap it. So it's very, very light. But it's $125 a sheet.
Is it hard to find?
Well, I mean, you can't just go to Home Depot and get it. No. So it's not. If you know where to get it, no.
Okay, yeah.
But it's.
It's like looking for hummus out nowadays.
Yeah.
You can find it, but you got to know.
You got to know where. You got to know where to get it.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes great road bed because it's very like if you're spiking into it, you don't. I mean, you can use like the blue foam you buy from, the blue foam that you buy from.
Yeah.
But as you spike into it, it presses down.
Yeah.
But Gator foam is very, very, very rigid. It makes very good road bed.
Okay.
It's just kind of expensive, but.
Yeah.
But.
So I got a question for you because it's an interesting discussion we're having about.
Mm-hmm.
It's something lately I've really started to kind of wonder about.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying how you come here to kind of get rejuvenated, and because the atmosphere is great. I mean, the atmosphere at NERPM.
It's great.
It's great.
Yeah.
I interviewed Dave Owens about a month and a half ago, and we played it there a week or so. Well, it's a long ways from a few weeks ago now.
Yeah.
And but we got talking about the atmosphere, and I thought I got to go just to see what it's like. And it's just this great gathering of people. So one of the questions I've started kind of asking myself, it's like I'm starting to become convinced that model railroaders are born in the hospital because there's a magic nurse that comes around and puts pixie dust on certain individuals. Because it seems like this hobby, once it's in your blood, you cannot get it out. And you're like, what we're talking about with you is that you need to be rejuvenated. It never leaves. No. It never leaves.
No.
It just needs to. The light just needs to be fired up again.
Yeah, you get a.
It's fascinating. The people that are in model railroading, they're in.
Yeah.
Like they're in.
The people here is like you're in it. You're in it
pretty much everybody that's I've talked to over the years, they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Different variant. Like this is a perfect example. Like you say, you have to get fired up, rejuvenated, but you come here and you probably go home and probably for the next month you're working on the layout again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I had gotten a bunch of stuff. I had finished. Finished is a relative term, but I had finished the track on the actual laying of the track on the one of the corner modules, and I was going to bring it here.
Right.
And with
in
the Kia Sorento, and
did you sell my truck?
Yes.
I never even got to drive it.
I know. Sorry, I didn't know you were coming here. I could have waited a couple of months if I'd known you, but because you wanted to make it a surprise. I got everything, got the thing out of the basement, brought it up out of the basement. I had measured it, so I knew it was going to fit.
Right.
I just forgot to measure the door.
Oh.
Because I couldn't get it through the door into the car. It's like
out of the house?
I got it out of the house, up to the vehicle.
But it wouldn't go...
No, I got it out of the house, no problem.
Okay.
That was not a problem. But I got it to go into the vehicle, and it was like 2 inches too big to fit through the door.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Yeah. And one of the structures on it, there's a single structure on it, which was glued in place, which was slightly disturbing because I had to get it up out of the basement, not break the structure, get up all the way up the stairs, get around, get through the basement, through the garage, open the door, try to get into the car, holding this thing by myself, and not break the structure, and you go to put it in the car, and it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And then you got to bring it all the way down. And the good thing is...
And you're at that moment when, because it's only 2 inches, there is a moment when one end of it is sitting on the car, and you're convinced that all you got to do is just figure out how to jury rig, jiggle this thing, or turn it a certain way, and you're going to get it in.
Nope. And I was even thinking... It's like I could just cut off this side and make it. And it's like, no, it's still not going to fit. No, don't go there. Don't go there. Do not do that. But the nice thing is when I brought it back downstairs and I put it in place, popped right in, all the tracks lined up. So I'm like, well, at least my design is good.
Yeah,
the design is excellent.
Yeah, now you just need a trailer.
Yeah, which is an idea.
It is an idea.
It's an idea.
You can get a nice, pretty. You can get a nice cargo trailer for not a lot of money.
And it's since the layout's so light. I mean, the Sorento doesn't have a tremendous towing capacity, but it has enough for that. It's so light.
So how is Gatorboard light? Is it
very light? I mean, this is a 4x5 module that, Even the 2x8 module, it's probably the heaviest part on it is the road bed.
And how heavy would that 2x8 module be?
50 pounds.
Is there any framework under the Gator board?
Oh yeah, I mean it's built like a standard module.
Right.
So you build it with it's got a top, and it's got the box frame. So it's like a box frame module.
Yeah,
it's
but
just,
the Gator board is the
Gator
final.
board is the right. And so I have it. You rip it on a table saw to be 1x4s. So
Right.
It's essentially 1x4s.
Okay.
It's the same. The difference between it and wood is you can screw into it once.
And you know this how.
And there is a Gator, I think it's gatorform.com or gatorform.net. There's a gentleman, he's out of Vermont, and he does sell it. And that's the better type to get. You can get it from sign stores. The problem with the stuff from sign stores is the exterior of it is a kind of a smooth plastic. The stuff from gatorform.com is kind of more like paper, but you can drop it in water and it doesn't warp, it doesn't do anything. And that's when you go to Springfield, he's actually right across the street. The Gator Foam guy is right across from where Jim Sacco was. Like where you are.
Really?
He's right there.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He's right there, Gatorform. But he has his back to you.
Okay.
So you got to go around to him. But
I
yeah,
gotta go
he's
interview
at
him
Springfield.
next
Yeah.
year. That's what I'll do.
Yeah.
I'll say
he's-
Jim Lincoln sent me.
He's literally from where you are, he's probably to the left. You know that the guys with the bridge?
Yeah.
That are right there?
Yeah.
It's on the other side of them.
Okay.
And that has a paper facing, and it glues better. So because you glue the bench work together. So there's a particular type of glue. You can go to Home Depot and get it. It's very easy. It's a caulk. You're using caulking to glue it together. And it's very, very strong. But if you want, there's certain things you can put wood on it. So the way that the modules are put together is I use cleats. So I forget what they're called, but they're cut at 45 degrees, and so the cleats drop into each other.
Okay.
So it's a kind of a...
So how did you discover it? How did you discover Gator board? Gator foam?
Clark Kooning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Clark Kooning had used it.
All right.
And he had talked about it, so I said, let me try it.
Yeah,
and it's really
yeah.
light. It really works really well. And it's just, it's 100 and something a sheet.
You're right.
So... And where I have one wall of the railroad essentially done. The track's there. And I have to go around the corner. But the problem is, what has slowed me down is, I have a couple of bridges I have to build, and everybody wants me to, you do Proto 48, so you got to do the nice open deck plate girder bridge. That's what you have to. Whatever. And so I got to build a drop-in module. So I just got to design it.
But you love doing the track work.
I loved it. Yeah.
You love that.
Yeah.
I mean, your track work is a model.
Yes.
And a good model.
Thank you.
An exquisite model.
Thank you. I try to. It's individual tie plates, individual spikes,
I know.
individual
but it's a model.
Yeah.
That's a fun part of it. That's another great part of this hobby. Is if you like doing track work, have at it.
Yeah. Parts of the, if you zoom in on enough, on my first Proto 48 module I even did, what's the most on track, if you're anywhere near track, and if you work, the most ubiquitous thing other than the track is, what do you think? Everywhere.
Ties?
Leaves.
Leaves. Oh, yeah.
What, nobody, not very many people do dead leaves. It's
No.
Dead leaves are everywhere.
They are.
Summer, fall. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're always there.
They're always there in the ties, next to everything. And so the thing, particularly when you're with the lights we normally have, that you say, well, just take old leaves, put them in a blender, and no, it's the wrong color. Real leaves don't look right under artificial light because they're kind of a funny orange-brown, into my eye anyway. So what was a better color, and what I did is I bought a cigar and ripped up the leaves.
Yeah.
Because it's the right orange color to look right under artificial light.
That's fantastic.
And I think it looks great. It's like one of these things that you look at the track and it's like, That's what was missing.
See, that's why I'm convinced this hobby's way bigger than we realize, because there's other guys like you that love that kind of detail, and the challenge of trying to figure it out, and like that's part of the fun of model railroading is the challenge of trying to make it look.
But then you have to. There's the challenge of that, but then you have to, which I have come to. You have to get to the point where you can think about that, and a lot of my railroad isn't done because you do paralysis analysis.
Yeah.
And you have to it's just good enough.
Yeah.
There are sections where it's just good enough. No one is gonna know other than you. And if you're doing it because it's not right, and I've been there, and you just have to get. No one cares other than you, and no one's going to know unless you tell them, which is okay. You can tell them, but just be cool with it. And I think for a lot of people, that's the bigger thing, is just do the best you can, be happy.
But a lot of that is like fine art, though. I mean, it's like Picasso, probably did way more than he needed to.
And I wish I had brought a structure I had built. But
you couldn't get in the car.
No, I forgot it. There's a couple of things. There's two things I forgot. And when I was building, it's a Craftsman kit,
right?
And there's supposed to be a painted sign on the side of it. And so the way you do a painted sign is you sand it really small, you sand it really thin, then you put on glue stick on the back of it, and then you emboss it on the...
Right, yeah.
Okay. But my suggestion to everybody listening to this is when you're going to do that, buy cheap glue sticks. The cheapest, crappiest glue sticks you can. Don't buy Gorilla Glue sticks because they work. So what you don't want is for the glue on the glue stick, because what will happen with glue stick is the longer it stays there, the better it sticks.
Right.
Even with crappy glue sticks, eventually it sticks really well.
Okay.
What you don't want is it to grab quickly.
All right.
Gorilla Glue sticks grab quickly. And it, as I'm trying to work this thing into the side of the building, it ripped it. And I was so upset, and I'm like, there's nothing I could do. I couldn't move it. So I ripped it off, and then I realized, this actually looks like it's been worn off.
Yeah.
Let me put it back on. And when I put it back on, the thing looks like I purposely ripped this thing to make it look old, which is not, in fact, true.
Right.
I made a mistake. And that's like somebody said once was, what's the difference between a hobbyist and a craftsman?
I don't know.
A craftsman knows how to cover up his mistakes.
Yeah.
And knows how to make it look like he meant to do it.
The first time, yeah, exactly.
Because it gives it character. Actually, the mistakes give things character.
It does. They really do.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that boxcar with graffiti on it.
Well, there's two of them with graffiti.
The one that I can see.
Okay.
Yeah, that one.
The other one had the graffitis on the other side.
Okay,
so.
well, see, I can't see that, can I? I can't see that, Jim. Don't give me a hard time. Did you do that?
I did.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
But that's a fun thing to do, too. Like, how long did it take you to do that?
I don't even know. That I actually, I cut it. I used painter's tape. That is cut out painter's tape for the...
You're right.
So to it, I did a mask. That's masked. That is hand done.
So what we're looking at is it's a Darth Vader on the side of a boxcar, and at the other end of the boxcar it says "Vote Vader." Did you see this somewhere?
No, I made that up.
Okay.
I made that up.
What's your feeling on graffiti? I'm torn. On the one hand, it's kind of like it's part of today's world in modern railroading. And on the other hand, it is, at the end of the day, defacing public property or private property.
On freight equipment, for like freight cars and stuff like that, it is what it is. You know, if you do a good job and you're a good artist, I've seen very, very bad graffiti.
Oh, yeah.
And I've come across it. I know where they did it. And, like, whoever it was did the whole side of the car. I mean, literally, top to bottom, on ladders, did this whole side. And he's a very, very bad artist. And there are some, like
some that are
each
pieces.
Ichabod.
Yeah.
Ichabod. And I know that Ichabod, and people say, oh, he's from here and here. No, he's from Boston.
Right.
The reason I know this is because the CP yard, which is now storage, but it's where the Fords used to come in Framingham, they were using it for storage, and there was this line of like 30 steel cars, coil steel cars. and they were in there. They were stored, and we went in to pick them up. In the whole side that wasn't on the side where you could see from the street, the whole side, all 30 of them.
Wow.
All 30 of the cars had some sort of ICH on it.
Wow.
Ichabod ICH. It's like The other thing is there are Ichabod tags in Beacon Park Yard. So
Okay.
on the walls, on the retaining walls in Beacon Park Yard, there's some Ichabod tags. So anyway, he's good, and there's other ones I've seen that are very, very good. And it's like I like to see that. And honestly, they're doing the railroads a favor, and the ones who are smart, they don't paint over the reporting marks.
Okay.
Or they'll mask out the reporting marks. So they'll paint around the reporting marks, and that way the railroad has no reason to paint it out.
Right, yeah.
The smart ones.
Yeah.
The dopes just paint over the reporting marks, and then they have their graffiti destroyed.
Yeah.
The ones I don't like are the ones that do passenger equipment. People have tagged the passenger equipment and locomotives.
Right.
It's like, no one's ever going to say, really? It's like, you're doing the railroad a favor if you're painting a rail box. Because then they don't have to repaint the thing.
Yeah.
You're actually doing them a favor.
Almost.
In a way.
Yeah, I get it.
But when you're doing passenger equipment, it's like, okay, you just did that, and we're going to wash it off.
Yeah.
We're going within a week.
Yeah,
it's gone.
Never going to stay.
No, yeah, I did. Yeah. And
How long have we been talking? Gee whiz.
a while.
Yeah. Like 34 minutes, I think
wow.
it says.
So I just want to, like this one.
Show me one more thing, and then we'll... You're always interesting, Jim.
Thanks. And so this is a resin kit that I wanted to bring this out, in particular that I started with Craig Biscayr.
Oh, yeah.
Came over my house, and because I had never built a resin kit.
Sure.
And so he helped me start working on this, and that's CB. The CB is for Craig.
Yeah. Well, and of course we lost Craig there,
Right.
what, about a year ago?
About a year, yeah, actually, this there was right before this show last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So.
And he was a great friend to a lot of folks in the Northeast.
Yeah.
He's getting to be a great friend to a lot of people around the world because of digital media.
Right.
Which I absolutely love. I think it's the best thing that could have ever happened to this hobby.
Yep.
It's opening up people people are becoming friends that never would have known each other. Mm-hmm. You and I, we would have never known each other had it not been for digital media.
No. I just noticed, like in the O-Scale National Convention, I think it was last weekend, and young lady is a very excellent model, O-Scale modeler, and she just came over and she was, on social media for the O-Scale National in Denver, yeah.
Okay, we'll have to track her down.
Yeah, Sarah, she's from Germany.
Okay, and she came to the O-Scale?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's more and more ladies getting involved in the hobby. I think the hobby's going to, me personally, here's what I think. Mm-hmm. The hobby's going to explode.
Yep.
And we're all going to be covered in model railroad goo.
Yes. Yes. Yep, absolutely. But,
what's one last thing you'd like to tell me about what you're doing?
Well, it's like this car here. The doors are 3D printed, so I have a 3D printer at home. So
Okay.
That's the nice thing. Nowadays you can get it.
How are you getting into that? Are you having luck with it?
Sometimes.
Yeah?
Sometimes. I mean, like this, on this Lionel car, that coupler box is 3D printed. And those can be, the more complicated the piece, the harder it is to get to print. Depends on how much money you spend on the 3D printer.
Well, let me ask you a good question, because we have our friend Bernard Helen, who owns Mini Prints.
Okay.
Miniprints.com.
Yep.
I recommend everybody buy from miniprints.com. Bernard Helen's a great guy. And I always say, tell him Lionel sent you.
Okay.
And see if that helps.
All right. Or it doesn't.
Or doesn't. And so here's a really good question I have. He has a prospering business doing 3D printing. Do you think, even though you have your own 3D printer, you would still buy from an actual commercial guy because to save yourself the aggravation of building certain things?
Yeah. Particularly depending on what it was, depending on the piece.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better for me to do it, and sometimes it's better. I mean, if you know how to 3D design it.
Say you want a couple of Adirondack chairs for your front porch it's easier just to buy them off of him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like don't reinvent the wheel. Just
don't reinvent the wheel. That's what I think is going to happen. Is
this here? The doors are 3D printed, and
some of the parts underneath.
No, actually, none of them are.
Oh.
Except for the couplers. So the couplers are.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. So that's the type of thing you can do with 3D printing.
Is there a spring in there?
On this side, yeah.
So we're looking at the coupler pocket, and then the coupler slides in it.
It's a cushion coupler. So
cushion couplers.
Yeah. So on this side there isn't because it's so tight that that wasn't really necessary. I can still get a spring in there if I want to, but
Okay. That's kind of cool.
yeah.
That must be a fun. So when you feel like you're burnt out, but you want to get started, and aside from coming here, what's the one thing you would turn to kind of? Because I know for pretty much everybody, you know, one of the great things about model railroading is, okay, you've been working on track and you're kind of burnt out about doing track. Okay, I'm going to go paint some cars.
Right.
What's your like go-to thing to get you fired up or get you going again? It's something easy. What's your easy thing to get you going
Weathering.
again? What's that?
Weathering.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't really make any difference whether you screw it up or not. You know, and like a lot of the screw-ups. Now, for instance, in this particular case on the Burlington Northern car that I'm doing, I should have sprayed it with dull coat before I did anything.
Okay.
And I didn't do it, and I didn't bring dull coat. And so...
Sounds like you were just like, were you like half asleep when you left or something?
No, I got so upset because I couldn't get the module into the car, and it totally threw me off.
And even if you jiggled it like this way, did you
I
try jiggling it this way?
No, you know, the big thing was that the structure, I didn't want to crush the structure, so I had to kind of sort of be careful with what I was doing.
Yeah.
So had the structure come off, I had the brilliant idea of the time of gluing the structure in place, which I didn't realize was glued in place until I tried to remove it. I'm like,
Well, you know what? To make you feel better, I'll make a video of me trying to put my bicycle in the back of my SUV without taking the front wheel off. Because it'll be a hell of a lot easier if I just put it in. I can get it in. I can't get this in. You know, and the whole time my brain's going, why don't you just take the front wheel off? No. I can get it in, and then I don't have to put it back on. My other brain's going, just take the front wheel off. No. I can get it in.
And then somebody comes along and says, you know, and you think it's too complicated to get the front wheel off, and somebody who really knows the bike is like, you know, you can just click, and they pull the wheel off like within a second. You're like, yeah, I knew that.
I have this fun bike shop I go to in Florida, and every time I'm trying to wrestle the bike back into the guy, he comes out and he goes, just take the front wheel off.
Of course. But yeah, I would say, you know, just pick something easy. Weathering is a good one. But for instance, like with what I'm using.
Yeah, what are you using?
It's washes. It's from
what are the washes?
Liquid pigments.
Where do you get those?
Life Color. So I got it on
Liquid?
Amazon. So Life Color.
What introduced you to that?
I think I was just looking for Vallejo on Amazon.
Right.
And I found these, and I figured I'd try them out.
Okay.
So
are they made by Vallejo or anything?
No, they're made by Life Color.
By what?
Life Color, right? That's
you don't have to. I wasn't going to hit your model.
No. It was rolling. That's why I had put it there because the thing was rolling away.
To paint a word picture for everybody, Jim gets nervous every time my hand gets near his models.
Not really.
I've never heard of these before.
I hadn't either.
And how long have you been using them?
A couple of years.
Liquid pigments.
Yeah.
And you found these on Amazon?
Yeah. Life Color. The brand is Life Color. So they also have like regular... They're kind of similar to Vallejo paints.
Okay.
But I have Vallejo. I mean, Vallejo's great. I'm not going to say anything. But I try these out. And because it's a wash, and it's not... The lettering on the car is very smooth. The wash is kind of puddling in weird ways, but it looks good because it's rusty.
Yeah.
You know, it makes sense. You know,
Yeah.
Anyway.
You should do a video about it. Do you
Maybe.
do any videos there or anything?
I don't have... No.
What's that?
No, the short answer is no.
No, me neither. I'm not a big YouTube guy.
No, I have a few videos on YouTube, but no.
Yeah, I'm not a big YouTube guy. Yeah. I think it's great for the people that do it, but I'm not. It's a lot of work making videos.
Yes, it is.
See,
you know, making videos is easy. It's the editing that's the problem.
That's right. Because the way I'll edit this is when I'm driving back to my house, I'll just play it on my radio.
Oh, because I tried doing I was going to do a podcast, and I recorded one episode, and the whole process of editing that episode, I'm like, I don't have it.
Yeah.
I don't have it. Can I talk? Sure. Do I want to edit it? Not really.
Well, then just come on our podcast more often.
There you go.
That will work.
Yeah, and it would probably keep the juices flowing. That's the other thing I would say.
Let's make a point of that.
Okay, I would say one of the best things people can do: listen to more Model Railroad podcasts. It will actually keep the brain flowing, kind of connected. Because whatever you listen to, that's kind of going to be what you're going to concentrate on.
And
so
the key to a model railroad podcast is it's not all about model railroading.
No.
You got to talk about the people.
Stuff. Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah, stuff.
Like the modeler's life, we're coming on 9 years, but what makes it work is the
9 years?
9 years.
Really?
I know. It's crazy.
Really?
And it's always been one of the viewer mails always been sponsored by Jim Lincoln Chev-Ols.
It's another Lincoln Homer. The only thing that was disappointing, and I understand you know, it's my favorite part. My favorite part of that was the goal horn. Believe it or not. What? Small things.
Small things.
Like, what? No, that was the Rochester
Americans.
The Rochester American goal horn.
Well, it's still at the end.
Oh, it is at the end of the. Okay.
At the end of the shows, yeah. Yeah, it is. It's at the end of the shows. 44 minutes. We almost made a show.
Excellent.
All right. So that's the deal. Let's shake on it. From now on, you're going to be on the podcast more often.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, because you'll always have something to talk about.
Something.
And you don't have to be on. The thing is, you don't have to be on for 44 minutes. You can be on for 10.
Right.
And just talk about whatever it is you're doing. We'll talk about if you can ever figure out how to get that next module into the Subaru or into the Kia Sorento hybrid.
Yeah,
that's a sweet ride.
It is.
What color?
White.
All right.
It's the
nice wheels.
So it's a pearl. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the wheels that came with it, but it looks nice.
Yeah.
The only thing that I kind of like I want to put the racing stripes on the hood.
The who what's?
On the how the black. They do the black racing stripes on the hood.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind doing that.
That wouldn't be all right.
Yeah. It cuts down on the glare.
I was going to put a sort of an orange flare on the side of my gray Lexus, right down along the bottom of the door, because then it wouldn't look like every other gray Lexus. And then I realized it wouldn't look like every other gray Lexus, and people would know it was me around town.
That was the thing about my truck is everybody knew I was coming.
Yeah.
And they knew I was there. They're like, "Oh, Jim's there."
Yeah.
I had people that hadn't known, like I hadn't seen in years.
Yeah.
Literally hadn't not seen this guy in years. Pull up to me at CVS and around town, and they're like, "Hey, Jim, how you doing?" And I'm like, How'd you know it was me? Oh, I had seen you post this on Facebook, so... Yeah.
So just to remind everybody, Jim had a Ford Roush Racing pickup truck. And at the time, you didn't know what Roush Racing was.
No, I didn't. No, I did not. I just knew it looked cool and it sounded great.
All right, say goodbye, Jim.
Goodbye, Jim.
Okay, so now I'm sitting here with John Frantz.
Yes, sir.
Is that right? Did I say it right? Is it John?
Yes, it is John.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Frantz.
Frantz.
Yes.
I say France.
Whatever works for you, sir. As long as I'm not late for dinner.
Well, we had this argument before.
Yes, we did.
And I'm like, no, you're saying it wrong. Okay, so we're sitting at your table here at NERPM.
Yes.
Your display table. You're not... I caught up with you at the Rapido booth.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a big booth over there.
Yep.
I was thinking, do you think if I said to Bill Schneider I'd like to test one of the GE 44 tonners, he'd let me take it home with me?
I don't know if he'd let you take it home. I'm sure if you asked nicely, we could find a place for you to demo it.
All right. We should do a Rapido commercial right here.
You mean Rapido trains are fast track for model railroading fun?
Rapido trains are fast track to model railroading fun.
Your fast track to
okay.
model railroading fun. You want to try again?
We can do that.
All right. Rapido trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's H-O, the fast track is Rapido.
So what's new? How long you been at Rapido now?
Well, it's been a whirlwind. I've been there for over a year now. My anniversary was the end of April, and in Jason's own words, if I lasted a year, I'll probably last a long time.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
And do some people not last a year?
It's all about finding that right fit for, I'm sure you've experienced that with your own joys of running a business, that there's some people that are great, some people that are not so great.
Yeah, I've had some people that I'd be just as happy if they left.
Yeah. Yes, don't go away angry, just go away.
Yeah, exactly. So how did you end up getting hired at Rapido? I know you've told me the story again before, but let's talk about it again.
Well, I actually got my start in the industry, quote unquote, back in 2003, 2004. I was fresh out of high school. I was working on a 2-year associate's degree, and I emailed Jeff Springer down at Custom Auto Railroads and say, hey, I'm working on a CAD degree for computer drafting, and I know model railroading. Can I help you out? So I interviewed and I helped him build a few custom auto railroads and do some custom structures. And, business ebbed and flowed. So sometimes he needed me, sometimes he didn't. And then we got to a point that I got my degree and ran off and did CAD drafting things. In the meantime, I was still good friends with him. And I started creating my own line of custom laser cut structures out of acrylic.
Okay.
For Pennsy prototypes, because I grew up liking the Pennsylvania Railroad because of my father.
And why because of your dad?
Well, for my father, when he was born, both houses he grew up in until graduating high school were really close to the Pennsylvania Railroad. So he remembers as a kid there were still 12 passenger trains a day through York, Pennsylvania, and he could see them out of his bedroom window.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So while I had other relatives that weren't in the trains, that's how my dad got into it.
Was he ever a model railroader?
Yes, he was, and he still is.
Oh, really?
Yep.
What does he have a layout, or
he has a 15 by 21 foot layout in his basement, and he models the Pennsylvania Railroad from essentially the 1930s through the transition era of the 50s.
Do you ever help him with the layout?
I've helped him with the layout. For a while, he had one layout, and my father was a mechanic for 38 years, and 38 years of mechanic's knees, he got tired of his duck under.
Right.
So he decided to tear down the layout and build a new one, and I actually designed his new layout for him and helped him build it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And how long has he had this layout?
So his current layout he's had for about, I'd say, 10 years or so. He faces the problem many do, that you get that mainline run going, and then you like running trains and building things, and you never quite finish the layout. But he's in a happy place. He's retired and doing his thing, and I don't live in the house anymore. I can't tell him what to do.
Well, I think that's the part of the one of the magic parts of the hobby is you can be in different states of finished and be just as happy as anybody else.
Yes. Well, and again, everybody with the layout, it's always that joy of finally hooking up power. And, it may not look finished to the untrained eye, but in the mind of the owner, it's you're like running through that scene in your head.
Yeah, once you get it running and you're off to the races.
Yes.
So he must have been thrilled when you got a job with Rapido.
Yeah, it was really fun. And he's had a lot of fun watching me create a car that I pitched to Jason. Jason said yes, and he's had a lot of fun watching the process of the behind the scenes things that not many people get to do.
So last night when we were talking in the bar, not that you were up late or anything, you wouldn't tell me what the car was that you were working on, but you can tell me now because nobody's listening.
Oh yeah, well, my first car, which we talked about, the X23 and the R7 that were announced is my first car, and
the X23 boxcar.
Yeah, the X23 boxcar and the R7 reefer.
So why the X23 boxcar? What made you say I want to design an X23 boxcar?
For the Pennsylvania Railroad, it's a very token-looking car, and also I approached it from many perspectives. From a historical perspective, many railroads they had a 40-foot boxcar. For the Pennsylvania Railroad, this was their first. So, there's that Genesis car of this is the beginning of the modern era of railroading. It wasn't the 30-foot or 36-foot boxcars of the pre-1900s era.
Right.
This is the first big one. It had a wire and truss design that really makes it stand out. And also, the thing is, there were some characteristics that still followed through from those early freight car designs. So the car was only 10 foot tall off the rail. So when you put it next to a modern 40-foot boxcar, it really stands out as a short car.
Okay.
So it's kind of a token-looking car that everybody needs one on the layout because it's a neat-looking, one-off car. And as much as non-Pennsy modelers hate to hear Pennsy people remind you of this, if you model pre-1968, you model the Pennsy because their sheer amount of freight cars outnumbered some people's, some railroads' overall freight car fleet.
So
the Pennsy had tens of thousands, whereas some railroads only had thousands of freight cars.
So what was that process like for pitching your first car to the Rapido gang?
Well, pitching my first car last June in 2022, we had the Canadian Dealer Open House, and then we had a day or two of meetings, and we were told we were going to have a pitch session, so I prepared some briefs basically, and I came up with a bunch of pictures and some data on some cars I wanted to do and presented them to Jason, and basically, Jason knows at this point anything Penske sells, and
Yeah?
he said yes.
Penske sells, eh?
Yes, Penske sells.
Oh, all right. That's interesting. Any particular reason why we think that? Just because there's a lot of Penske fans?
Yes, there's a lot of Penske fans. The railroad, it has still, the railroad stopped existing as a corporate entity 55 years ago, and there's still a huge following today.
Yeah, that's for sure. So what are we looking at here on your? So what are you modeling then specifically?
So specifically, I model from 1978 to 1980-ish with Conrail, Chessie, and Monpaw, and the York, Pennsylvania area.
Okay.
So a lot of what you're seeing on my table here are, models representative of things you would have seen in the 70s, and in some cases I have pictures of, models I bought from Bob's Photos or somebody else that this is a really cool-looking car, and then I want to duplicate it. And part of that, I've also had fun with my father too. That he shot pictures of freight cars in the 70s, and I'd be like, I want to model that car, and then I find a manufacturer that did that car, and I'll duplicate the car based on his pictures.
I'm going to ask you a real tough question. Well, maybe it's not a tough question, but it's going to be hard for me to word it. So be patient.
Okay.
How much of an influence? Because this isn't a regular question. How much of an influence do you think it was that your dad was a model railroader on what you're doing today? Did that make sense?
It does. I think for me it was a really large influence, but unlike some people that have kids and, dare I say it, they try and force their hobbies on their kids to say, I'm having fun with this, you should have fun too. My dad didn't force it on me. He was very willing and able to give me my own models to learn how to decal, learn how to paint.
Oh, yeah?
And then gave me some space to experiment with as well.
Okay, so he was very much into having you get involved, get in up to your elbows.
Do the hands-on learning thing.
Okay. That must have been a fun experience, though, for you. Like, do you remember an age like 13, 14, 10, 12 when you guys started to be like that?
Actually, I really started doing that around, I'd say about 9 or 10. And I was fortunate also growing up that my father had a lot of friends that had some really great model railroads,
Oh, yeah?
People are amazed when I tell them this. My father had a really good friend of his that lived in the Gettysburg area, but he was a really great Penske modeler, but he modeled in 2-rail O scale.
Okay.
So imagine a 10-year-old kid going to the basement with 2-rail O scale, and I'm giving the throttle and say, John, go have fun. And I'm not doing NASCAR speeds in a circuit. I understand, this is 2-rail O scale brass. It needs to be treated with respect.
Right.
And being able to do that as a kid can really leave an impression on you.
Yeah. So how do you feel like, that's another tough question. Like, I'm interested. It's kind of fun to have met you. I think I met you, didn't I, before you became part of Rapido?
I believe so. I know I definitely emailed Bruce through, the Model Agitated Mailboy's email address beforehand, and I remember that email being read on viewer mail before I got hired, and I think we talked at Tom Stock right after I had been hired, but never really had a chance to sit down.
We did talk to Tom Stock after you'd been hired. That's right. So now this X23 car, is it in the process of orders are being taken, or where are we at?
So the car, both the X23 and the R7 were announced in May. At this point, people are standing by on telephones for you to order as we speak. Either, you can call, you can, do everything on the website.
Rapido.com.
And of course, remember, Rapido does encourage you to please order through your local hobby shop or favorite dealer and distributor. We make money through them just as much as anything else. So please patronize your local shop. This is a great way for them to stay in business.
It's a great thing about Rapido is how very much they want the patronage to go to the local hobby shop. They make that very, very plain, as opposed to other manufacturers, big manufacturers that make it very obvious they prefer you didn't go to a hobby shop.
Has
that been a conscious decision, do you think?
I believe Jason has very much made that as a conscious decision. We like to spread the wealth of the hobby.
Okay.
Without being able to reach to that little guy in Podunk, Midwest somewhere. He might not know this stuff exists.
Yeah. So, the website's important. You go to RapidoTrains.com. And because it is your fast track to model railroading fun.
Yes, it is.
Bruce came up with that.
I know.
When we did the 2 jingles, David Hyde, who's a friend of mine and a big fan of the nation, he's in the Dallas Symphony Orchestra.
Yes,
and
very
these
impressive.
And these 2 jingles just showed up. He actually said to me, "Do you mind if I try making those jingles into something?" And I'm like, "Sure." and he showed up, and they were good right off the bat. But I thought they were a little hard to understand. So off he goes again to improve them. And so I get him back, and I play him for my wife, and she says, "Well, the guy that owns Rapido trains isn't going to like those, is he?" And I said, "Well, he's got a pretty good personality." I said, "He's a pretty friendly guy." I said, "I think they're they're not meant to be funny, but they're kind of catchy."
Yeah.
And she says, "Well, okay." And so then I'm like, for a week, I'm thinking, should I play these for Jason, or what should I do? I don't know. Finally, I suck it up one day, and he was in California throwing trains off a mountain.
Oh, yeah.
And I send him I didn't know he was doing that. And I send him the 2 jingles by text. And like 3 seconds later, I get, "These are awesome. Who did these?" And I'm thinking, yes. But now I catch myself singing them in the shower. They're actually catchy.
Yes, I listened to that jingle episode, and like many that post on their Facebook, in my head for the next week, they were bouncing in the back of my head.
I know. All right, so what is this? What are these hoppers with the yellow markings on the side?
So these are actually Rapido hoppers. These are Pennsy 2-bay hopper cars called GLA hoppers. And Berwyn coal mining companies got these, but Berwyn was eventually absorbed by the Pennsylvania Railroad, and they used them in revenue service.
Okay.
In this case, the cars were starting to show their age because by this point it's the early 70s, and so they kept them in company service and patched them out for ballast car service.
Oh.
So that's why you see the yellow patches with the black lettering on them. It has, if you look close, it says MOW use only with a specific service assignment saying when it's empty, go back to this quarry for more ballast. Basically.
All right. The Conrail locomotive and those new Jeep 38s from Rapido.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I know. I have someone pre-order. Actually, the E8 sitting right there that I have that I weathered and patched for Conrail is a Rapido E8.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, what were we talking about that last night with somebody about weathering $300 locomotives?
Mm-hmm. It's weathering $300 locomotives.
But that's half the fun.
Exactly.
So do you have a layout currently in construction?
Yes, I do. I am working on it. Back in 2021, in March, I bought a house with my wife.
Okay.
And,
as opposed to buying a house with your buddy.
True. But my wife knew going into it that there was going to be a dedicated space for train layout. So, I basically, when it came down to the basement, when we looked at the house, she said, "I know, this is going to be the train room." And I said, "Yes, it is, and there's no arguments about this." And she was okay with everything. So I'm currently building a roughly 12-foot by 40-foot multi-deck layout that will be operations-based.
Holy mackerel, 12-foot by 40-foot, so there's a helix in there somewhere.
At least 2.
At least 2.
Yeah.
And how far along are we?
I'm almost at the 25% mark. I'm right now building on one end of that in a 12-foot by 12-foot section just because of how openings in the wall occur. It just makes it conducive to do that right now.
Right.
And things are moving fairly along. I do have a Facebook page set up because some guy named Lionel said that most layouts should have a Facebook page.
Got to have a Facebook page.
So my railroad is York County 1970s Model Railroad.
York County 1970s Model Railroad.
Yes. And I have a following on there. I think I did make sure to invite you and a bunch of other people.
Is it private or do you have it as a?
I think I might have it set up as a private group. With the way
that's becoming a bugaboo of mine.
Yeah, with the way Facebook is these days, you got to keep the spam away.
I don't know if I agree with that because we have our AML one is not. I mean, you got to join, but it's pretty public. It's not necessarily private. I guess it is. I don't know. So what's it called? York?
I think it's York County, PA, 1970s Model Railroad.
York County, PA. This is the most interesting part of the podcast.
Yep.
And it's even worse now because I'm doing it on my phone.
Here it's York County, PA, 1970s Crossroads Model Railroad.
All right. 1970s. There'll be elevator music in here somewhere.
Yeah, cue the elevator music.
Oh, there it is. All I had to do is put in York County, PA, 1970, and it came up. All right, you got 195 members already. All right, I'll join there. Perfect. Now you got 196.
Hey, every little bit helps.
And do you find like everybody that I talked into having a Facebook page almost invariably say they like it because they have interaction with people and they get to show their progress and people comment and.
Yeah, it is fun to connect with fellow moderators and share some ideas and see what people think about what you're doing. And, the hobby of moderating, as you say, it's, much larger than we think.
Oh, it's way bigger.
One day it'll explode and we'll all be covered in moderator goo. But it's fun to share with your friends what you're doing. Because I have people around the world are saying, hey, this is what John's doing in his basement, and they enjoy seeing it.
Yeah. I mean, what a great...
Yes.
This is for the hobby. This is unbelievably spectacular.
Yes, and I've learned a lot from Jason, seeing how he manages his layouts page to plug that into mine. So so this weekend I'm here at NERPM, but I have pictures of the layout I have not shared yet. So then I'll probably schedule something tomorrow to get posted up. So this way it shows I'm still making progress.
Right.
Because I'm busy working for Rapido and I have other interests and hobbies, I don't get to spend as much time in the layout as I probably should. But I always figured as long as I try and make at least one post every week or every 2 weeks, it'll still keep people engaged and know what's going on.
So let me ask you this. Do you find it's like almost too much that you have a hobby, that your hobby is model railroading and you work in model railroading? Like, how are you handling that?
I've gotten really good at mentally compartmentalizing things.
Okay.
So it's funny, when I hired on, I mentioned about work-life balance, and of course everybody laughs and said work-life balance at Rapido. What's that? And there are times that, deadlines are deadlines. They have to be met.
Sure, yeah.
So, I may be working on something at midnight, but...
Well, yeah, just last night I was helping you with the artwork on the...
I know you were. I need to let Josh know. He's going to be very surprised. But, there are days, it's just like any other salary job that when the boss says jump, you got to jump. So... you gotta do that, and there's other times, during the weekend, and I'm, the wife says, hey, you're doing this. I'm doing what? Well, you're doing this. Okay, and the layout waits.
And you didn't have to move, did you? You stayed in the area you were living in?
Yes, I'm still in the area I grew up in, and
which is?
So I am in York, PA, and I'm modeling York, PA.
Okay.
So it's helpful also then for modeling that I can only, I can take a 10-minute drive and do some research on something.
And there's a Harley Davidson factory there.
Yes, there's the finishing factory there at Harley. Which, if you've never taken the tour, you should. It's really cool to watch.
I've taken that tour.
Yes.
I've done the ride my Harley to the Harley factory in York and taken the tour.
Good man.
So is this layout like double deck, triple deck? We're not sure yet.
I know what it's supposed to be, and all my friends have told me I'm crazy, but I know what I want to do, which is I have 3 scenic decks and then a staging deck in addition to that. So we're at the number 4.
Yeah, you are crazy.
Yes, well, but with what I'm modeling, it isn't as crazy as it sounds. My main middle deck is basically modeling 2.5 miles of 2 railroads that parallel each other. So it looks like double track, but it's basically 2 single track railroads that it's an industrial canyon of structures.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how low is the lowest deck?
My lowest deck, which is staging, is 16 inches off the floor.
15 inches off the floor.
Yeah.
But that's staging. So staging almost gets a free ride. It can be anywhere.
After that, my first scenic deck is at 25 inches, and then I space everything in roughly 16 inches from that. So I have a deck at 25, 40, and my top deck is at 53, I think.
Have you had anybody help you with the plan?
I've had a few friends look at it. They all think I'm a little crazy.
Right.
But when I go over my operating schedule and all that, and they understand what I'm trying to do. And the cool thing is I have a friend that's basically modeling the same thing in end scale. So we kind of share ideas and train schedules and all that. So, recently I had the opportunity back in April to meet Tony Custer.
Oh, did you?
And, when Tony and I talked, Tony talks in his book when he was planning the Allegheny Midland that the thing, it's a proto-freelance road, and he built what he thought was appropriate for staging, but it never was.
Right.
So he always says, plan extra. Fortunately for me, I'm actually doing like a 90% prototypical track plan and have a pretty good idea what I'm doing, so I can easily figure out on my train schedule what trains I want to model and then what I need room for in staging. So this way, I don't need to plan for that extra. I know definitively that, I'm running this train and it'll fit on this track, that kind of thing.
Have you had any exposure to operating other layouts?
I have. I've actually been... I've been fortunate that through the World Wide Web, right after I graduated high school, that in 2003, I started emailing all these layouts in my area saying, hey, I haven't opted much lately, but I'm into it. Can I come over and be part of your crew? And I've basically now been operating on my railroads for 20 years.
Anyone you would know?
I don't think so. Well, and again, there's a lot before Facebook. There was a lot of closeted communities that did stuff, and there still are.
Yeah, but that's what's changed the hobby. That is what's changed the hobby. The closet. Like I was having this discussion the other day with some guys, and do you think? Like, how old are you now?
I am now 39.
All right,
I'm the same age as your son, or roughly.
Yeah, he'll be 39 in October. He runs my business now. He's the same guy who couldn't get to cut the grass. I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. Can you cut the grass? You haven't cut the grass for like a week and a half. Can you cut the grass? Yeah, I'll get around.
Yeah, but did you charge rent?
No.
Oh, you should have.
He would never pay. His mother wouldn't have made him pay.
Oh, okay.
He's an only child. We could only have one child, and then and now this guy that couldn't cut the grass is able to run my company. It makes no sense to me. It's a mathematical equation that I can't figure out.
I think it was probably the motivation factor that now he's making money.
Yeah.
Whereas before, cutting grass didn't make him money.
Well, you know what the worst part is? The company's making more money with him running it than it was with me running it. So I'm keeping that. I haven't told him yet. I'm saving that little nugget for somewhere down the road. Because if he ever finds that out, I'm done for.
Profit sharing.
Yeah. So, what was the question I was going to ask you? It was a good question. How old are you?
They're all good questions.
Yeah. How old are you? Don't tell me. Let me guess.
Okay.
Do you think, even in your limited lifespan, which is still 40 years, do you think there are more fantastic layouts now than there were, say, 25 years ago?
I think most definitely. The hobby has evolved. And I know this has been preached on your podcast a lot, that, back in the day, you'd see the Ken McQuarrie's, Tony Custer, Alan McClellan layouts that were these giant basement behemoths. But the problem is, you build these big layouts, then you need to maintain them.
Yeah.
And so that's why, as Bruce, talks about a lot, the small layout craze has certainly bitten in for doing switching layouts to, a 10 by 10 can keep you busy.
Yeah.
If you detail it out to the nth degree. I mean, look at what Tom Klomoski's doing with the Georgia Northern.
Yes.
There's a lot that you can do in a small space if you enhance the operation.
So let me ask you this question, a follow-up. Can I ask a follow-up?
You can ask all the questions you want.
All right. Do you think, this is what I think smaller layouts like a Tom Klomoski that's 12 by 12 or got somebody that's building a 2-foot by 10-foot layout, I think they're more exciting to have and to build because of these fantastic models you can buy from companies now that are available. You get the latest Rapido trains.
Yes.
And Rapido trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's H-O, the fast track is Rapido.
You get the latest, and we played the jingle there again.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's Latin. Some people are saying European, but I'm convinced it's Latin.
Yeah.
We need some Moroccos in the market. But do you think that the hobby is like way more fun now to have, because you buy like one of the Rapido Jeep 38s, and I mean it's like just operating that locomotive is you're turning on the lights and the bells and the this and the that, and you can operate it more realistically. And do you think that is helping to increase the hobby? Or?
I certainly think that's helping a lot. Because of growing up with my father, I remember when you could go to the hobby shop and you had the display case with noses lined up in the display case. But you're still buying basically what was a stock model. If you wanted to model something specific, even if it was Pennsylvania Railroad, you had to go buy all those Details West, Details Associate, Cal Scale, Bowser parts to make it your model. You don't have to do that anymore. You can buy it, the prototype you like, right out of the box, and it's truly ready to run. I think that helps a lot with people that are starting out in the hobby. That hey, I like this. This looks awesome, and now I can put it on a piece of track and run it.
Let me ask you another follow-up question. I liked, I would buy a Jeep 7, undecorated, Atlas Jeep 7, Cato Drive, and, you'd have to remove the hand grabs, and you'd have to add details. Like, I liked that.
Yeah.
I thought that was a fun part of the hobby, which seems to have gone away now. And, do you think how could we bring that back? Or do you think that's just gone forever and we'll never see it again?
I think some of it's there. Some manufacturers inadvertently do things and they omit details, but then it leaves the modelers some wiggle room to add them and make it their own.
Right. Obviously, you can't reveal anything about behind the scenes of Rapido. But do you guys ever have any discussion of, geez, maybe we should just offer more of a plain Jane car? We're being bothered now by Eric Hansman.
Yeah.
He's coming. He's been bothering us the entire time.
Yeah, these pre-1930s modelers, they keep trying to say that's the best era.
Steam, all steam, baby.
Go back to your hole.
Yeah. Go away, Eric. But be prepared to be interviewed at some point. So do you think, now I'll ask Eric the same question, but do you I know you can't give me behind-the-scenes information, although I'm going to insist that Jason lets me sit in on all meetings.
Good luck with that.
Okay, well, I can try.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm still convinced that if at every meeting somebody said, well, what would Lionel do? But do you think there's ever a chance that they could get back to a bit more of a plain Jane car?
We'll have to see what the market can bear. Obviously, Scale Trains has been doing that with their Kit Classics line, and it does harken back to the days of Atherton with the Shake the Box kit. It's known pretty much that AccuRail is kind of that new Atherton with the Shake the Box kit to get into the entry side of model railroading.
AccuRail is doing the hobby a great service, I think.
Yes, and I know that they are insanely busy right now. To try and get a custom run from them, you're lucky they'll pick up the phone.
Yeah, I know. I got to interview those guys because they're just. I was going to ask one last question. Don't tell me I can think of it. I can't think of it. All right. Well, this is a pretty good interview. How long have we been talking? 31 minutes. Holy moly. Let's call it a day now because we'll be talking again in the future.
Sounds good.
So how's your X23? Is it in the pre-order stage?
Yes, it's in the pre-order stage right now, and all indications show that everybody's been very it was well received from everybody. It was kind of that dark horse car that everybody would ask about it, saying, hey, somebody should do this.
Right,
and somebody finally did it. And it's been fun to get the reactions of everybody, and I haven't had a lot of negative feedback.
And is it kind of nervous waiting to see how many people order it?
Yeah. You always want to be successful. And, for me, this is my first car. So
it's kind of like writing music and doing hit songs, isn't it?
Well, and again, it's, everybody pictures their own idea because it's what they want.
Yeah.
It's hoping that everybody else wants it too.
Yeah.
It's playing a game of darts and hoping that everybody wins.
Yeah. But it's got to be cool. It's going to be fun talking to you as the years go by.
Yeah.
As it develops and as you become more of a veteran of the wars of model railroading, manufacturing, and such like that.
Yeah.
All right. Say goodbye, John.
Goodbye, John.
So what did you think of that show, Tom?
Oh, that was awesome. It took me right back. To the event.
That's right. It's like you were there.
Yeah, it's like I was there again.
Yeah, it's like you were sitting right beside Jim Lincoln having a chit chat with him.
Yep. Yep. He was showing me his little portable airbrush with the little battery operated compressor thing.
And John Frantz, he's building a 12 by 30. I think he said 12 by 30 foot double deck layout. Mm-hmm. Like holy mackerel! You guys, but you know what? It's really. I was having this conversation with somebody. I think I had it with you too. I mean, we had a great time at Friday night dinner. We had like 8 of us, and we got there in the pouring rain, didn't we?
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah, it was like, how did I drive? Were you okay? Did you feel comfortable in the back seat? Were you all right?
I was fine in the back seat, except when you did that U-turn on the highway. That was a little that was a little. I was reaching for the handle, but no, it was great.
Yeah, and then when we arrived at the restaurant, it wasn't just raining; it was pouring.
Yeah, it was really a downpour.
And we were all kind of sitting there going, "Well, what do we do?" And then finally, one of us just opened the door and made a lunge for it.
Yep.
I
think it might have been me. I was hungry.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was fun. So David Yale was first. Him and what's his friend? How do you say Ron's last name?
Poitamani.
Why does I was like, I met a couple of people with names I could not pronounce, and they would. I met this fella Dave up in DeSano. He's Butch Eiler's friend.
Oh, Appa DeSano.
Yeah. Oh, and then Ted Diorio.
Yep.
Diorio. It's like, oh, these people, and I feel sorry for them because they're saying their name about 7 times, and I'm like, it's going like right past me. And a lot of big names are easy to pronounce once you break them down into syllables, but when somebody's trying to tell it to you and you're trying to interview them at the same time, it's just going right past me.
Yep.
So then I end up asking them like 6 times. How do you say?
And that's the worst thing, right? Because that's like the last thing you want to do to somebody you're interviewing is butcher their name.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Well, and in the early years of the podcast, I used to be concerned about how I sounded on the podcast, and now I'm just like, yeah, I'm not getting your name. You got to tell me again. After the Alan Keller interview where I just sounded like a complete goober the whole time, I'm just like, yeah, I don't care anymore. Let's just get I'm just having fun talking to you.
Yep. I had Ted did his weathering clinic all weekend, and I sat in and weathered a little Boston and Maine covered hopper following his instructions. It actually turned out really nice. I was really.
So you did the clinic?
I did. There was a spot where, I figured I'd been wanting to sit in on because he's done it also at the Mid-Atlantic meet, where he sits there and brings the materials. And so I've wanted to sit with him and do a car and get some tips and pointers from him. So this time I said, you know what, I'm gonna find a spot where maybe there's clinics that I'm not, incredibly overly fired up about, and I'm just going to take the time and I'm going to sit there and work with Ted. And that's what I did. I went to the vendor room and I bought a relatively cheap Atlas covered hopper. And because I left here in such a hurry, I was going to bring 1 or 2 of my own cars, and I just didn't get out to the barn to grab anything. So I was like, well, I have to buy one in the vendor room. So I found a covered hopper and brought that over, and Ted walked us through it, and it really, it turned out nice. And his techniques were quick and easy, which, when you've got a fleet of 400 freight cars, if you want to weather them all, you've got to look at quick and easy.
Yeah, the way it turns out, the way his stuff turns out is like kind of spectacular.
Yeah.
And I mean, he showed me roughly when I was interviewing him, and I'm thinking, this is like really easy, and the result is like really spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very cool. Again, like I said in the introduction, like everybody I went to talk to was like, yeah, sure, I'll talk to you. And everybody was like super friendly. And then when you're just walking around the hotel or being part of the raffle, I highly recommend if anybody's thinking about going to NERPM, do not go to NERPM thinking it's a bunch of model railroading snobs that don't want to talk to anybody and want to criticize your stuff. It's just the opposite. I would highly recommend, regardless of what level modeler you think you are, there is nobody there that is looking to make you feel bad about your modeling. Like, I would take something, and my modeling is average at best, and I would take something just to show off, because I felt like the room was very... Dave Owen sets the tone, and he's very welcoming with his whole gang there too. I talked to Louis, and one of his guys that works the guy that works the model room. I can't remember.
Yep, Louis Segura.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they're all Dave and his team are some of the nicest guys you'll meet in the hobby. They're very welcoming. A few years ago, I was up in Hartford for work for a few days, and so one night I met up with Dave after work, and he took me to his modular club in Torrington, and that's where a lot of these RPM guys, they're also members of his modular club, and they could not have been. I mean, here's this guy from out of town. You know, they didn't know me from Adam, and they could not have been more welcoming. You know, and you know, talk to me about what they were modeling, about their club, and then, you know, after all the introductions and stuff, they actually let me help do some track work for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then we all went out to dinner afterward and had a great time. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, these meets, there's no points, there's no judging, there's no contest. It's just come and share the hobby with a bunch of like-minded men and women. There were women there too that were exhibiting and weathering, and you know, and the other thing that I was really pleased to see, and I don't know if you noticed it, but there were a lot of younger people there. There were these two kids that were going from clinic to clinic, and I'm pretty sure they were of high school age. I would have been surprised if they were out of high school yet. There were clearly some younger people there. So that was really, really nice to see that, you know, there's, and that's one thing Dave is really taking pains to encourage. He has the special student rate, you know, for students that want to come. I mean, he's really trying to encourage getting young people into the hobby. So it was nice to see that there were a bunch of them there this weekend.
I even had a chance to talk with John Sacerdoti, who runs the White Elephant Table. And do you know? Did you know their White Elephant Table? They don't take a percentage. Like, you bring something to sell on the White Elephant Table, and it sells for $30. You get $30.
Wow!
I know.
I did not know that. That's great.
I know. So then I was also talking to John. John, of course, has been running the Springfield show, the Amherst Railway Society's Model Railroad Show, for 20 plus years, 22, 23 years. He loves doing it. He's still doing it, but he's like, he wants to retire in 2 or 3 or 4 years or 5 years or somewhere down the road. You know who needs to replace him, don't you?
I would cast my vote for Dave Owens.
It's Dave Owens. It's been settled, I think, as far as I talked to John. John and I even talked about it when he was being interviewed. He was saying, yeah, he's like the ideal guy to do it, and there's nobody else to do it other than Dave Owens. Dave Owens, you're going to be the next show director of the Amherst Railway Society Model Railroad Show. When and if, an emphasis on the if John Sacerdoti ever retires. Right. He's Dave, you're the natural replacement, buddy. And just so long as I get my parking spot, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
That's rule number one.
That's key. That is huge. All right. Well, we better close this up. Can you give out our email address?
Sure. If you'd like to contact us through the wonderful mode of email, you can send us an email at modelerslife@gmail.com. That's modelers with one L as in Springfield, not 2 L's as in Kelly, who's not here tonight. Or you can go to our website, amodelerslife.com, and you can scroll down to the picture of Bruce, the moderately agitated mailboy, in a particularly agitated state, and you can click on him, and you can send us an email that way.
Exactly. We got a bunch of email we got to read. And the best thing about the podcast, you know what the best thing about the podcast is?
It's marginally adequate.
Well, there's that. Well, yeah, there's that too. But it's sponsored by Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
Rapido Trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
Is that getting old already? I don't think so, is it?
No, it'll never get old.
I love the jingles. I mean, we got to have David Hyde on just to talk about the process for doing the jingles. I mean, like I told you before, I was in the shower singing one of them, and I'm thinking they're that good and that catchy that I'm singing one of them in the shower. Could be in. You wrote it. How much time do you spend writing music, by the way?
I don't. I don't spend any time. This stuff just pops into my head.
I was saying maybe I should, like, every time we play it, I should give you a penny. You and David.
Well, I think if you're gonna have David Hyde on, you have to have David bring whoever sang that one.
Yeah.
If it's N, if it's HO. I want to know who that person is. I want to know if they're South American or they're Eastern European.
Yeah, I think they're South American or of Latino descent. But I love it. They couldn't have picked a better voice for it. I just love it.
Yeah.
That's because.
And then the other one.
Yeah.
Rapido train. That sounds like. I mean, that sounds like something you would see on TV. Like
yeah.
There'd be like a commercial, and like Jason would be there, with a bunch of like cars in his hands and come on down,
Yeah.
and then it would cut to that and Rapido train. It's they're awesome.
I know. Like for years, I'm going to be telling the same story. I'm going to be like, he sends me an email one day or a text and says, "Is it okay if I try working on those two jingles?" And I'm like, "Sure, if you want to." And I'm thinking to myself, I'm a fanboy. I what? I got to admit, I am now a fanboy of David Hyde's. I'm like, and I'm like, it's a guy from the Dallas Symphony Orchestra working on our jingle. And then when he sends them to me, I'm thinking, oh my God, he actually like got people involved in everything.
Right. They were like professionally done.
I know. You can't go wrong with Rapido trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's HO, the fast track is Rapido.
Okay, so this is on the free channel. So if you like this particular podcast and you'd like to have twice as much podcasting a week for just a few cents a day, you can have a free podcast on Monday, and on Tuesday you can join our Patreon channel, and that is then you'll get a second podcast. And we kind of think of that as more like the sitting on the front porch kind of podcast. It's just people that all kind of know each other and all have the same love of a modeler's life and are all deeply involved with it. Just sitting around on the porch after Aunt B made us one of those great Sunday dinners.
Right.
It's just very relaxed. It's a very relaxed podcast on Tuesday.
Right. We don't stand on formality there.
No, not like we do on Monday, like today.
Right.
And if you ever, Tom, have you ever wanted a T-shirt with a hot dog on it?
I've longed for one my entire life.
Well, you know what? If you go to Midwest Model Railroad, and their URL is midwestmodelrr.com, and go across the navigation bar and click on Other, and right there, the drop-down menu, it'll be an AML shop, and in there, boom, you are in a wonderland of hats, hoodies, mugs, T-shirts, whatever you could possibly need of AML merchandise. And there's a T-shirt in there with a hot dog on it.
You know what else is awesome about Midwest Model Railroad?
What's that?
They have the fastest shipping in the hobby, hands down.
Yeah, they pride themselves on that. I mean, they order something today, it's shipped out. Sometimes it'll be shipped out the same day.
Yep.
A lot of times it'll be shipped out the same day, and at the very least, it's shipped out first thing the next day, and quality shipping, and before you know it, boom, you got your product with you.
Yep.
All right.
And they have a very customer friendly return policy. They're wonderful to deal with.
That's our buddy Stephen Atwell, he loves having Midwest Model Railroad. Started that with his family, his dad, and that's in Independence, Missouri. But what he really loves is being an electrician on Broadway in New York. So he does both things. He's an electrician on Broadway, and he has Midwest Model Railroad. Fascinating.
That's an amazing pairing.
It is. All right, I think we're done.
Okay.
Between the intro and the outro, we killed like 36 minutes.
Wow, this is an episode in itself almost.
I know. People will come up to me and they'll go, "How do you do 2 podcasts a week?" And I'm like, well, I like to talk to people, and you'll start talking to somebody, and before you know it, like I sat and I talked to Jim Lincoln for 40 minutes on Friday at the thing, and all quality stuff, or at least I thought it was. And David Yale, I talked to him for like 20 minutes, and John Frantz, I talked to him. I naturally want to say Frantz, but he
Yep.
insists it's Frantz, so I don't want to be rude.
Right.
Or any ruder than I usually am. And that we talked to him for like 25 minutes, and that was they were three great interviews, and we got like another 12 yet to air.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the best part, which you're really going to enjoy, they were done in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Oh, no.
I'm afraid so.
Oh.
What else can I do, man? It's Springfield, Massachusetts.
Okay. All right.
Are you ready?
Oh, sure. Let her rip.
So remember, a Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
Really bad Bee Gees song cover artists.
And the lights all went down in Massachusetts the day I left her standing on the road, trying to hitch a ride to San Francisco. Got to do the things I got to do, and the lights all went down in Massachusetts.
4x4x4 car crushing action Saturday at the Spectrum. Burning motor coaches battle it out in the mud bog with special guest stars Heather Locklear and Knight Rider Car Kit.
It's another Lincoln Homer.